Let me jump. Wait, remember I posted a whole bunch of other shit. Data scraping, yeah, that was a fucking thing. And then the rest of it's in mod text, so I'll go through that.
Okay.
Just the...
Sorry, I was double checking the stream, making sure all of the audio levels sounded good.
Okay.
Killer. All right.
This is anti-any strategy. Oh yeah, the fucking Monster High thing was so funny.
Monster High thing?
Yeah, the way that they're just like anti-unity strategy. We'll sell 2 different versions of the game, and when one gets to like, yeah.
Okay.
We'll mention that. It was so funny.
Honestly, when you said Monster High, my brain immediately jumped to the toy line, like the dolls.
Or Monster Prom, sorry.
Oh, okay. That is what it was called. Okay, perfect.
I don't know. Same difference. It's fucking Monster High School.
Yeah, except Monster Prom is really good.
Yeah. And Monster High is just Bratz dolls.
But Halloween.
Yeah.
Alright.
Gosh, reminds me of the goth movement. And like how to be an alt girl and all you do is kind of wear like on TikTok and all like these like fucking like casuals are like just like they're not even into goth music or goth culture. They're just kind of like wearing slightly torn stuff that's all black. That's like,
oh my god,
not in the spirit of goth, and then calling themselves goth.
Well, because it's also
as one does.
It's also
like,
it's also like pre-torn stuff that they bought, like distressed look that they bought from like Aeropostale or something.
Yeah, they're not like stitching together their own vintage shit because they're like 15 and can't afford it. They're like, yeah, and there's a difference between like baby bats and people who are just like wearing something that's kind of torn and calling themselves like super alt and super goth, because like there's a whole fucking culture for it. So it's like, it's one thing like if that's like your style and you're enjoying yourself, whatever, right? Like, not to hate on that, but don't call yourself something when you don't care about the culture, because it's kind of insulting to that culture, right?
Right.
Okay. It's just like, okay, yeah, if you're like the representative of it and all you care about is fashion. Very goth is more like the music than the fashion, but like the fashion and the music go hand in hand. Plus there's also like pastel goth where you wear like the pastel colors, but you still have like thick eyeliner and all that jazz. Like it's a thing. There's a lot of differences. Anyways.
Anyway, what's happening, party people? So
hell yeah.
There's been a lot since the last time we did one of these.
Yeah.
It's been a lot. But we're not going to start with Unity. The Unity stuff will come. However, this is something that you brought this up the first one of these we did, and we're like, oh, we'll do that next time. And then
Denuvo, right?
And then the Denuvo stuff, and then we did this again and we forgot.
Yeah, we kind of forgot a little bit about the Denuvo because we saw all of this Unity stuff building up over the past few weeks, and we were like, that was pretty distracting. So we'll probably start off with a little bit of Denuvo today, because we did say we'd talk about it, and then we're going to get into all of that Unity shit, because Twitter has been having a field day, and I have compiled a whole bunch of shit about it.
Perfect.
There's just a lot to talk about there.
Do you want to give like a brief, like, this is what Denuvo is for people who might not know?
For sure, for sure. I actually have it. So, Denuvo is a DRM, which is a... Hold on, shit, where is it? Wait. No, I lost it. A DRM, which is a basically anti-cheat and anti-tamper software. I forget what it stands for. Oh my god. I literally just read it.
Digital rights management.
Thank you. I have not very good brain, but yeah.
It's also the reason why streaming on PS4 is so weird, but it's literally just a setting you can turn off in the PS4's menu.
Oh wow. You mean like directly off the PS4? Because if you just hook up a cap card, it's different, right?
So if you hook it up through a cap card with the DRM stuff still on, you'll get sound, but just like a black screen. If you go into,
Oh,
if you turn off the DRM stuff in the menu for the, like in the settings for the PS4, it'll say like, okay, you can turn it off, but we won't let you play online. Okay, I already have the game downloaded. I don't play online games, so.
yeah, fair enough. That must make streaming like Call of Duty and all those PS4 games really awkward.
Oh,
No?
I'm sure there's ways around it. You can get around the DRM stuff on the PS3 just by putting it through like a patch, like an HDMI splitter. If you put it through like a couple of connections,
Oh.
eventually the DRM software in the PS3 just loses it. It's just like, oh, we're not connected to anything, but you're connected through a box connected to a box.
But connected to a box, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like because like I have the capture card I have has like 650 seconds milliseconds of delay and stuff like that. And like when you hook up to a TV, there's always delay
Mm-hmm.
versus like just a regular computer monitor for like for example rhythm games and stuff like that. So like wouldn't there eventually be like a delay between like your button inputs and what's being displayed on your screen?
I already play games that have button input delay. I play, PS1
Well,
game, PS2
older
games.
Spyros, yeah.
Yeah, I honestly don't notice a diff. No, that's not true. I think the PS3 version of Sly 1 gets really fucked up because the boss from like the middle of the game, like the third of 5 bosses, she's a rhythm boss, and
Oh no.
so when a PS2 runs, it runs at like a limit of, how much data can be displayed, how much data can be conveyed. But on PS3, that is sped up. So like the music for the rhythm game was running at a certain rate to go with the button prompts, but the music plays a little bit faster on the PS3 version.
No.
So it's not really a rhythm game, and now it's just like, I know what the next one is, so I'm just gonna keep mashing it till it says I get past that button input.
Yeah, with actual rhythm games, it doesn't quite work that way because if
No.
it detects that you put it in early, then you're
Yeah.
hacked,
But
right? You
but
lose your combo.
this is like a single rhythm game in the middle of a game that never had that. So it was just a
Yeah, for sure. Like, I finished Nier Automata last night, and so
all
one
the
of the
routes.
endings is, yeah, ending E.
Let's
So,
go.
ending E is locked behind the credits, but it's fucking bullet hell. And then somebody told me Drakengard 3 apparently has a rhythm game. And
Yes.
Yoko Taro just likes putting these weird things in, and I was like, fucking, I flawlessly got to a specific point, and then it got harder, the bullet hell. So then it, like, without giving spoilers, it basically has, like, an assist mode that you can get eventually if you die too many times, and I'm just like, oh, thank fuck. I hate bullet hells. I'm never playing Isaac. I'm never playing Gungeon. I'm sorry. I suck at these.
My partner loves Yoko Taro games specifically because the man is insane.
Yes.
But yeah, in Drakengard 3, the final boss is a bullet hell rhythm game, and
Oh, it is? So it
it
is
it
bullet hell rhythm game? Ugh.
the final bosses, and like you'll defeat, quote unquote, defeat the boss, it'll fade to black, but another line of the bullet hell will happen after it's already black, and there's no like auditory thing. You just have to know it's like, oh, 2.5 seconds after the screen goes completely black, I have to tap the button again, otherwise you die and you have to do it all over again. Insane,
That's
man.
so mean.
Yeah, no,
Like-
it's
Reminds me of like I Want to Be the Guy. It was such a meme game where like you'd walk into one room and you'd be doing like the Castlevania speech with Dracula, and he in the middle of the speech he'd just throw the wine glass at you, and if you didn't know to jump, you'd just get fucking killed by it, and it was the most hilarious thing because he just throws it at you in the middle of talking, and it's just like he's just like heck this and just fucking throws his wine glass
Wasn't
at
that-
you. It was
isn't-
so funny to
Isn't
me.
that a Castlevania reference to the But Enough Talk, Let's Fight?
I think so.
what is
I
a
don't
man but a
remember. Yeah, because
miserable
I
little
don't
pile of
remember how old
secrets?
that video is, but I know I Want to Be the Guy was a thing when I was in high school, which was like a long time ago.
Mhm.
Hi, I'm old. But also, yeah, back on the topic of rhythm games with Denuvo. So, to go back into what is Denuvo, it's most famous for in the video game circle or in the video game circle, rather infamous for its key feature, anti-tamper protection. When implemented as a DRM, it employs techniques like obfuscation, anti-debugging implementations, virtualization, and encryption on video games' core files to fortress the video game from being reverse engineered and cracked by video game piracy groups. It also implements online activation and hardware signing to prevent unauthorized access to the game. So, what this means for a lot of games, including rhythm games, is Hachunemiu Project Diva Megamix on Steam PC has Denuvo. And in order to be able to play the game properly, you have to kind of go into offline mode and like play it offline because the Denuvo checks cause stuttering and lag in the game, and in a rhythm game that is very like finely tuned to perfect button presses, that's hell and spells death. So it's kind of like, you know, an awful fucking thing to, like, the most awful thing you could add. It's like, okay, we understand. Like, they managed to get past the modding and stuff like that, because Denuvo can prevent, like, modding, which, if you think of, like, GTA 5, the only reason GTA 5 lived for 10 fucking years is because of modders and modding, right? Adding content. Basically, people are buying and playing this game and still playing your game because other people are putting hard work into your game basically for free. You know what I mean? And Denuvo can stop a lot of that.
Bethesda, like all Bethesda games rely on the modder community to keep those games alive. They'll work 10 years for a game that has like a year of content, but games like Skyrim will keep being ported and keep, you know, staying relevant and alive 15 years after it comes out because of the modding community.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how it would work on Switch, because Switch doesn't have mods and stuff like that, but it's just like, oh yeah, now you can have Skyrim on the go, and people still care about Skyrim because of the mods.
I don't condone it, but you could always just crack your Switch.
We'll just wait until after the Switch store goes offline.
Exactly.
Because then I feel like, because at that point, I feel like it's, kosher to do so. You know what I mean? Like, they're already not selling their games anymore. They're not accessible anymore. Nobody is making money off of them anymore, except for people who are selling physical copies at usually a very, very hiked up rate. So in that case, yeah. But in terms of like going back to Denuvo and like performance and stuff like that, Katsuhiro Harada, who's the Tekken 7 director, completely blamed Denuvo for the poor PC launch. And said, like, it's like, it impacted the gaming performance heavily on PC. Because there was a lot of complaints about that, I kind of remember. There's also a YouTube video for anybody that wants to check it out here that is of Hogwarts Legacy, unfortunately, but it shows the difference in FPS between a cracked version of the game and the one that has Denuvo running actively on it. And there's too many games that have been reported by people that have, like, this performance decrease when it has Denuvo, that, like, they say, like, none of it's ever actually been tied to Denuvo, but it's too much of a coincidence to say it's not Denuvo. But yeah, there's also a tweet here from Katsuhiro Harada. Anti-tamper third-party middleware, it's live updating programs, and I heard it's fixed soon from them. We will check it and update. Because somebody's like, what does the encryption program do? So Katsuhiro Harada completely blamed the program. Because not only are you running the game, but you're running like the software that has to do checks constantly, connecting to a server to make sure that like you're connected. So, and like you were saying something about like newer games that are coming out with it, right? That are already pushing like current gaming to its limits.
Yeah. First off, that's the first time I have seen that footage of the side by side Hogwarts Legacy. That's crazy. Like the basically putting like, and it's splitting hairs in my opinion. Once you get up to like 80 frames per second, the difference between 80 and 110, the human eye can only operate upwards of like 60 something. 65 is like the limit for like the human brain. So
yeah,
unless you're a trained pro gamer, who was
Hell yeah, we are.
yeah, who was like, well, I mean, like playing Call of Duty for a living, unless you have like those Twitch reflexes. I doubt
Yeah.
it's making very big of a difference. But yeah, I have some just if you just look up Denuvo under the news, a lot of it is like lists of upcoming games that either will be using Denuvo or the developers of the game are making it a point to say we are not using Denuvo. Like Payday 3, the demo that came out for Payday 3 was using Denuvo, and they're dropping it before launch. It's actually already out. It came out a few days ago. It came out on the 21st. I don't play the Payday game, so I wasn't paying too close attention, but it's interesting that they used Denuvo for the demo and are dropping it before release. I'm sure they got like a lot of pushback saying, hey, with Denuvo the game doesn't run very well. But
They
now,
could have also like seen it firsthand and been like, okay, yeah, never mind,
Yeah.
fuck it.
but it's like, so everybody who played the demo played basically an inferior version, quote unquote, just because it was running this like extra software, and the game's probably going to run a lot smoother. It probably does run a lot smoother without it, but everybody who played it didn't get that experience. So I wonder what early reviews of that game are going to look like for people who played the demo.
Yeah. I mean, if you're basing like reviews off of a demo, like you'd have to like specify demo in order to like have actual integrity. It's unplayable? Oh no.
What's going on, Batch Moves?
Oh no. Also welcome in. Hello. It's actually unplayable. But it's kind of like Nier Automata actually, when they had like people review the game, they only played to the ending of Route A, which is not the entire story, and Square Enix was like begging people. It's like, please keep playing the game. There's actually more to the game. We promise. And like they were just basing all of their reviews off of that one tiny thing that has like no context for the most part. And then so like if you're like, you know, if you play a demo and it's just like, oh yeah, I played this demo, it felt really good, I have high hopes for the game, and then go back and do an actual review of the actual game later. But yeah, because a lot of the time when they do demos in early access, they do that to test, and they do that for like basically like kind of like free playtesting almost. It's just like, here, we have like a working demo of the first bit of the game, and then they get a whole bunch of like feedback, whether it be online, whether it be from actual people who are doing like beta testing, like through Steam, Twitter, whatever, and then they'll be like, okay, so that's broken, that's broken, that's broken, we didn't find that during our playtesting, let's try to fix that before we release the whole game, right? So I feel like it wouldn't be like in very good like taste to base your expectations of a game based off like the demo, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Always online and laggy as hell. Oh god.
I want to ask, just while Batch is here, he's a friend of mine, and I know he plays a lot of fighting games, and I know that Mortal Kombat 1, the new Mortal Kombat, uses Denuvo, and everybody I've talked to... Hey, what's going on, Drosky? Everybody that I know that has been playing Mortal Kombat 1 says it runs like ass, and I don't know if that's explicitly because of Denuvo, but I would be interested to hear if anybody else has, because I know Batch, go ahead. Are they all bad? Are all NetherRealm fighting games on PC bad? That's a shame.
Yeesh. Do they at least have rollback netcode? Because I know that's very important. What about like Tekken? Because like I mentioned earlier, Tekken 7 Katsuhiro completely blamed the poor performance on PC to Denuvo. Tekken is hit or miss. Yeah, for Tekken 7 specifically.
How long until you think we get a version of MK1 that's playable?
Oh god, yeah.
Well, because like
there's like the Switch version where like all of the facial expressions just look like an Xbox 360 game.
It's incredible how much they're trying to push for next year probably. It's incredible how much they're trying to push on Switch. Like Kingdom Hearts 3 on Switch. That game is not that game I doubt will ever run effectively on Switch, but they have their cloud gaming.
Kingdom Hearts all cloud based anyway.
Exactly.
So it's kind of like it's a ripoff.
But I have I have some other games here that are running on Denuvo or will run on Denuvo. The big one that sticks out to me, player base in the Middle East and Japan. A friend of mine who
I see.
friend of mine who just like loves fighting games couldn't get into Tekken 7 specifically because of they changed how, and again, I'm not literate in fighting games, but they changed how fighters work, and instead of having a bunch of various stats, it's just a pendulum swing, or it's like just a single spectrum of, are they meant for defense or offense? So you'll have characters who are like on way one end of the spectrum, who are, you know, super tanky but can't hit for shit, or who move really slow, hit really hard, but they can't take a hit at all. Which, if you have a slow character who can't take a hit, that's not fun.
Not at all.
But I have just another one here that is going to be using Denuvo is Like a Dragon 8 Infinite Wealth. And those games are getting bigger. They're getting, you know, they look much nicer, you know, compared to Kiwami 1, Yakuza Kiwami 1 and 2, Yakuza 3, you know,
I mean, the photorealism, as well as, like, it's a bigger game that's probably going to have a lot more content, especially at this photorealism. Like, the amount of gigabytes to download some of the games these days is just insane.
Yeah.
So, like, and then to run all that photorealism with, like, your GPUs, CPUs, etc., etc.
Assassin's Creed Mirage is another one here. This one's already out, but Lies of P is another one.
Fun fact about that one. When they, I think it was Lies of P, I'm pretty sure, that they didn't have Denuvo at first. And then within a couple days of releasing it, they added Denuvo and then released it. Yeah. Which was, like, really weird, and a lot of people were like, the fuck?
Yeah, the one I have here is Lies of P devs add Denuvo 4 days before launch. So again, if people
that's it.
If people got early release demo copies or like review copies, you know, sometimes a publication will get a game a week early so they have a review in time for release. They're not playing that version. They're not playing the version with Denuvo, so it might get way more favorable reviews, and then
that's slick.
And then they add Denuvo, and Activision did a very similar kind of scummy thing where all the reviews were out for Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled, and then they added microtransactions, and part of the reviews for the game were, oh, it's so refreshing to have like an online service, you know, like kart racer like this that doesn't have microtransactions.
We talked about this. That's so fucking funny.
It's funny, but I also hate it.
Well, yeah. Haha, funny in a bad way.
These games like the next Like a Dragon game, the next Assassin's Creed game, like, say what you will about Ubisoft and their lazy game design of climb the thing, or get to the point and it'll reveal more map, you know. I've complained...
Oh yeah, climb up very high and you could be able to look everywhere, and therefore you can draw it all on your map.
I was okay with that in Assassin's Creed. In Assassin's Creed, it made sense because part of the draw was the parkour. Was, oh, look at how much you can climb. But I've complained about The Crew before, the car game where you go up to a satellite dish and it does the same thing. All of their games do that now.
That Ubisoft feel.
Hate it in Zelda. Yeah, that's, like, it's a very...
Zelda kind of makes... It looked like it made a lot more sense than just copy-pasting it into every, like... Ubisoft game.
I forgot.
Because, like, you go and you have your Sheikah slate. It felt a little more genuine as a thing there. Plus, I guess they didn't know what else to do.
I forgot it was in Spider-Man PS4 until I just played it again on stream. Because how I remembered it was, and it is kind of like this, where as you discover more mini-games, it'll dot that stuff along the map, so you don't have to go and find them. But it still starts with no map. You have to find, like, 3... towers, and it's like they're always on top of like police precincts, and it's like, oh, you're tapping into the police line so you can get like a map of the city and where crime is or something like that. But I completely forgot it was in that, and it feels fine because part of Spider-Man again is the parkour. Like, I'm gonna be climbing rooftops anyway.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel very out of the way. But I agree that for Zelda, it felt very out of the way. But again, this Tears of the Kingdom was really based on verticality. You had the Skyloft style, like up in the clouds. You had the abyss way down below and stuff. But these games that are running Denuvo now, like Assassin's Creed, Lies of P, Like a Dragon, these are meant to be, pushing the boundaries of what gaming can do. They're designed on high-end PCs to be ported to PlayStation's or the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series. They're already pushing these things to their limit, so they are not designed with Denuvo in mind. I'm trying to be like kind of a moderate person in that, like, I don't think it's anybody's fault. I just don't think anybody accounts for it.
Yeah.
Like people
Because Denuvo is constantly denying it. Like, they're constantly denying it, or they're constantly saying, oh, we're gonna have a fix, we're gonna have a fix. A lot of these companies care about their profits, especially within the first month or two. So if Denuvo only works for the first month or two, then that's their batch of sales, then they can cancel it after. But on top of that, despite like all of this coincidence of all these games like not working with it, or like being like their performance is hindered with it, there's just like no solid proof or anybody actually saying that this happens except for the player base, and therefore they're trying to protect their profits and just going with it anyway. I think is probably what it is.
And yes, Trotsky, it is a DRM, but a lot of developers are having it just a part of the game. Like it's built into the game to run that software while you're playing. And yeah, you can on PC you can crack the game. You can very easily, go into files, get like a source editor and take it out. But that goes into the whole like, oh, you agreed to our terms of service thing, but nobody reads those.
Exactly.
But nobody is really accounting for the DRM. It's always oh, we're making the best possible game with, everything in house, and then somebody higher up.
We just add it in later.
Yeah, I don't even think it's the people who make the games that have the final say. It's usually somebody in a corporate position or maybe in a rights protection, position. Somebody who's in charge of saying we have to make sure our game files don't, flood the internet. So they tack it on to the, they throw it in there. And all of a sudden, everybody who was involved in actually making the game, their work is suffering. And I mentioned a little bit before we went live that sometimes developers will get blamed for that. Oh, you shipped a bloody mess, or you shipped like a buggy, bad game. No, you added Denuvo.
Yeah. Yeah, and it wasn't even like their decision. It's the same thing. It's kind of going back into like, for example, Hogwarts Legacy and all of like the controversy around that. The devs are not to blame. They work at this company, and this company decided to take this project on. It's kind of like the same thing here. It's just like, oh, I'm just like the 3D modeler. Oh, I'm a playtester. Oh, I'm the one that did all the concept art. None of them have the decision on whether they're going to add Denuvo or not. They're just told, okay, this is what we want. This is the kind of like setting we're going for, and this is the mechanics we want. So these people put it together, and then at the end of it, you have like this beautifully made piece of art, and then you just slap on a sloppy fucking like laminate on it, like using like fucking school glue, and that's Denuvo, and that's up to the people before they ship it, right? It's like, it's not necessarily up to them. They're just like, foot soldiers. They're just there, right? So it's really upsetting to see that like developers get all of this hate for this kind of thing.
Yeah,
when it's not their decision.
And I normally try and advocate speaking with your wallet. It's like, but it's really hard to do that when it's third party.
The game doesn't work.
When it's a third party add-on, like, because if you're not buying the game, that's just pointing at the developer. People aren't buying the game because of the developers. You made a bad game. No, I've seen gameplay of a Hogwarts Legacy, and it looks phenomenal. It's just that really, sticky area of
the leading transphobe is directly profiting off of it. So at this point, is it more like, is it like in good conscience to pirate the game so that she doesn't take her profits and pour it into anti-trans funding, or did you support the devs, which probably don't see as much of that money as she does?
Yeah, I feel like
I also like stopped caring about Harry Potter a long time ago, so like I don't even necessarily care to play it anyway.
Yeah.
But like that just gives me like a reason not to. I'd rather just like, I don't know, like fucking wire money to the actual devs themselves than buy the game to support them.
Yeah. But that's a whole other like issue. Like we're probably going to talk about it a bit more when like Persona 3 Reload starts
Oh yeah,
coming
we'll
around.
probably get back into that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But for Denuvo, just us as end users with all this going on, was there anything in particular that you wanted to talk about? Like what we can do as an end user, maybe be, you know, vocal on social media, if that even still works these days, because social medias are so spread out and it's usually about visual content now. You know, you have your threads, Instagram, YouTube, Shorts, TikTok. It's all, you know,
Yeah.
visual stimuli.
I mean,
who reads anymore?
Like, it's so in terms of like Denuvo and like understanding that's just like the way that like what was it? Metallica, like, was it Netscape or something like that? What was that music downloader before LimeWire? That was Meyer. Like, you know, the way that they sued them for it, it's like they are losing money for their hard work and stuff like that, despite already having a lot of money. So it's like, can't really blame them for wanting to have some sort of piracy protection, although there was the 2017, oh yeah, we cracked Denuvo in a week thing.
Napster.
That was fun. That was a fun thing that happened. So it's like, it's really hard to like blame these studios for wanting to use it, but at the same time I feel like if there is a decision to use it, then what they should do is they should complete their game, see how the game runs, right? And then they should allot extra time for playtesting with the program and maybe have like different ranges of power for PCs. Because, like, actually, I saw a thing earlier today about how, the Metal Gear collection, they're saying that it needs, like, the system requirements for it are higher than Metal Gear Solid 5 was, despite them being old games. And it's probably because they didn't have older stuff to test on. Yeah, I can see if I can find it. It was in a friend server. Was it tech support?
I'm just imagining somebody at Konami just being like, MGS1, y'all ain't ready for this.
Here it is. I'm gonna... yeah. I think that works. Oh, does this not work? Oh, it does work. Yeah. There's the system requirements for MGS5 and MGS1. Yeah, so that's kind of funny, right? So they might not have, like, older systems to necessarily run it on. I'm not saying they always have, like, the best stuff, but considering they're developing and rendering and all of this other stuff, they might. But if they have, like, a couple ranges of stuff that they expect their game to run on, and they just have a few playtesters, it is extra money, but at the same time, it keeps their company's integrity. It's just like, hey, we chose Denuvo, but we tried to work out some of the kinks with it before we released it to you all, you know what I mean? And that would like give people a lot more respect for the actual game companies that did choose it, and then everyone can just turn their pitchforks towards the Denuvo itself, right? In terms of like, I guess, like, you know, I'm not really sure what we can do as consumers or end users about this, because it's just like, you know, there's always going to be pirating, there's always going to be cracking, and, like, when it comes to modding, I feel like Denuvo is bad because mods often keep a game alive longer than it should be. Like Skyrim, but it's just something that, like, you know, we either need to find alternatives, or, like, you know, just try and support the devs anyway. Because if they're losing a whole bunch of money on their shit, then maybe they'll, I don't know, just don't pirate. Don't pirate until the game is, like, you know, already made all of the money it can.
like at this point,
10 years down the line or something.
Like at this point, I think it's morally acceptable to, or just don't pirate.
Yeah.
If you can, if
it's inaccessible like Nintendo shit, then and you can't buy it anywhere,
Yeah,
might as well.
we talked about this a little bit last time, where like PlayStation shut down the PSP store, Nintendo shut down the Wii U and the 3DS store. If these games are no longer available to buy, and your only two options are pirate it
Or buy
get
it for
fucked.
$2,000.
Yeah. You know, I don't think the secondhand market at this current time really can justify itself.
Yeah, Nintendo's not making money off of it anymore. It's just scalpers, essentially, at this point in time. Scalpers and collectors who would be making the money off of it, so it's not necessarily wrong to do so, because otherwise you're just never going to be able to play the game. But then you have, like, they're remaking Super Mario RPG, and they're remaking Thousand Year Door, so it's starting to look like maybe Nintendo is listening. We just have to see if Vivian is actually, like, officially trans or not. I know a lot of people are going to go crazy about that, but that's a tale for another time.
Yeah, you're going to get... No matter what they do, you're going to get people mad about it. which is unfortunate. But...
That's the thing, like, gamers are so fucking mad about everything. Like, there's actual people putting, like, their hearts into it. There's people who are being limited by, like, you know, higher up corporations, and it's okay to be mad at the corporation, but people should stop shitting on devs, you know what I mean? I feel like, as gamers, we need to just stop hating and start understanding. Because, like, we're bringing ourselves kind of a bad name, because we get out our pitchforks anytime, oh, they changed the way this character's nose looks, let's get the pitchforks.
Oh my god.
We get mad about the weirdest, stupidest things, and, like, I guess there's, like, a bigger issue in the Starfield pronoun debacle, but it just makes gamers look so fucking stupid. Like, just stop. It's just a fucking video game, man. Like, you know, it's art, and it's something that we love with our hearts, but at the same time, like, just fucking play the game. Like, they're asking your pronouns because they want to know if you're male or female. Like, have you never played a Pokemon game before? And if you're not, then you're not as well. Like, do you want to, like, create this male character and then have it be called she, her? No. It's fucking, oh my god. Not necessarily. I mean, maybe you do, and if you do, all the power to you. But, like, fucking, it's so weird.
It's literally a button press. I saw, like, everybody who made, like, a video complaining about the pronoun thing in Starfield.
It's an every person thing. But I mean, like,
people who were complaining about it took longer to complain about it than it would just to press the button. It's just a button press. You don't even have to worry about it. It doesn't take up that much time in your day. It's one of, like, the 3 things in, like, character creation that takes the least amount of time, I feel. You know?
Yeah. It's the same shit in fucking Pokemon. Like, you play Red and Blue as a kid, and it's just like, are you a boy or a girl? Right? And, like, now they just have, like, the option for they, them, and, like, you can completely ignore that, and it's like, I don't know, I feel like we should go up to these people who are complaining about pronouns, and, like, god. Like, imagine, it's just, like, you know, people like to specify their pronouns and stuff like that, so it's just like, oh, okay. Do you not care what your pronouns are, then? You know what I mean? Fucking...
Yeah.
It's so weird. It's, like, a much bigger issue, but it's, like, any job application will ask you, you know what I mean? Even before, like, LGBT was, like, a lot more, like, open and welcomely accepted, except by that, you know, that small radical group, like, you would have, like, you know, like, an online job application. It would just ask you if you're, like... It's like getting mad over if something asks if you're Mr., Miss, Mrs., you know what I mean?
How dare you assume I'm married?
Right? How dare you assume I'm married? Oh god. Yeah, it's ridiculous. I don't know, we get mad about the stupidest fucking things, and we grab pitchforks, and we literally have, like, an online fucking riot every time a single pixel is out of place, and we just need to stop. We need to stop, we need to step back, we need to understand a little bit of business, we need to understand a little bit of capitalism, and then we need to understand a little bit about development.
People want to be mad and happy, the mad again, it's an addiction cycle.
Yeah.
I can see it's a slippery slope. It really is, like, circling the drain, because, like, there's people who are mad about it, and then there's people like you, Mew, who are mad about the discourse about people being mad about it.
Just chill. Smoke some damn weed if it's legal in your area. Like, Jesus, you know?
Yeah. For sure.
Just fucking, I don't know, take a nap.
Just
I don't know, man. It's like I just want to play. We all just at the end of the day, all we want to do is play a video game. And it's like, okay, if it ends up being buggy and not working, I understand being mad about that. But then again, like what I'm saying as end users is we need to have understanding and empathy for the actual process of creating a video game. And I think, yeah, that's probably my final point on this. We need to have a little more empathy and understanding of where they're coming from. We don't necessarily have to respect the capitalistic or corporate aspects of it, but we need to stop blaming the devs.
Yeah, because the people who actually make the game are the ones who are getting pushback on both sides when there's an issue.
Yeah.
Their
Most
bosses...
of the time, it's not even the producer; it's the CEO, CFO. Right?
So you had the people who made the mistake, blaming the developers, and then you have the consumers who have no empathy, also blaming the developers because they don't have names for people to blame. You know, segueing into the Unity stuff, people were blaming. People have been blaming the guy who was formerly with EA,
John Tortellini or whatever his name is.
Tom something.
Isn't it? No, it's John. It's like John Tortellini or something. No, it's not Tortellini. What's his name? Okay, I have an entire fucking window full of like how many tabs is this? Oh my god.
Many tabs.
Here we go. Okay. So y'all can stop arguing the specifics. Hold on, let me find...
John Riccitiello. Riccitiello? Riccitiello. I don't
Something or other.
Sorry, I don't speak Italian.
Yeah. Okay, so where should we start on this? Do you want to give like a rundown while I get these tabs sorted a little better?
Let's wind back about a month ago. This started going down last time we were doing this, and we kind of wanted to let things shake out before we talked about it. Unity, the game creation software, announced that they will be changing their terms of service for developers. And part of it was sort of shrouded in a little bit of misinformation. They said that the new changes, which would charge developers based on how many times people download the game, I think there was an interaction thing where, you know, if the same person kept downloading, it wasn't just like a first-time download, but if one person was having an issue and they had to uninstall and re-download, that would be a secondary charge. I think it's been a while since the initial thing came out. They have since sent like a revised version out. We'll get into that later. But essentially, they said, don't worry, this will only affect 10% of our users. 10% of our users will see this uptick in our surcharges. However, 90% of Unity users are hobbyists or students, people who aren't actively publishing their own games, who aren't actively... who aren't, you know, active devs, I would say.
I could go and, like, you know, install Unity and say, I want to learn how to do fucking video game programming or whatever the hell is it. I want to learn how to work with this engine. And then I'll enter the program. I'll see it's a whole bunch of technical shit I don't understand. Close it, never open it again. And I'm still a part of their user base.
Yeah, you are now...
There's a lot of people like me. Like, you know, who's just like, oh, I can't, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. And then they just give up. Like, and that's included in that 90% number. And that's something that... It's very misleading. Very, very, very misleading.
So, essentially, any developer you've ever heard of that uses Unity is included in that 10%, even if it's a small company that Devolver Digital has published, because Devolver Digital is really cool about helping indie developers like that. They are included in that, because they are the ones actually, when they say 10%, they're talking about the 10% of people who actually develop and publish games for sale in the market. And so there was a really big critical pushback because I think it was a charge of like 20 cents per download. And at, you know, 1,000 downloads, we can do some math real quick. I can't do math real quick. 20 cents at 1,000 downloads, that's 20,000... No, 20,000?
Hold on.
20 cents
Okay,
per
I have a calculator here. 0.20
times
times
1,000.
100 10,000
Does
is
that
$2,000. Yeah.
2,000? Okay, I misplaced a zero. Looking really smart on stream. All right, I can do math. Yeah.
I was in the middle of reading, or I would have just calculated it off my head. But I'm just like, fuck it. I have this here, and I'm reading.
You want to know how bad it was? I couldn't even find the calculator on my desktop.
Oh, I have it pinned to my start. I have it pinned to my start bar because I use it a lot for work.
I opened up my little thing and was like, okay, cool, let me find it. Nope, that's GeForce, that's the snipping tool, that's Google. Where's my calculator? I'm literally on a search bar. I could type in CAL. There it is, but I didn't do that anyway.
For some reason, my calculator is Japanese. And I don't know how to read the kanji, so I had to pin it to my start bar because I wasn't able to search it because for some reason half of my desktop is in Japanese and I don't know what the fuck I did to my computer and I can't read this much kanji yet.
I was about to say, your computer got wise. They heard you speaking in Japanese on stream and they were like, "Oh, okay."
I don't know what happened.
But
it's like, before, like, this install of Windows that I have, for some reason, and I don't know why, whenever I accidentally opened, like, the Discord help tab by clicking, like, by hitting the wrong button or something, and I opened the tab in my Chrome for help, the help section would be in Japanese. And the same thing whenever I went to my Streamlabs to, like, mess with alerts and stuff like that, it would just, like, it would have dashboard instead of dashboard, and I'm just like, and login, and I'm like,
what did you do?
I don't.
Oh my god. Alright, it's also important to note for this early Unity stuff that people immediately started pointing fingers. I think rightfully so. A little misguided, but I understand why people immediately started pointing fingers at John
Ricciatiello.
Yeah, John Ricciatiello.
Yeah, it's I know it's double C is chi in Italian.
Yeah, people immediately started pointing fingers at John, because, yo, what's going on? Somebody else I know. Everybody's here. But something else. But people immediately started pointing fingers at John because of his time at EA.
Oh, and I found the exact tweet that complements what you're talking about.
For people who do not remember what he did with his time at EA, he basically, hang on, is this what I'm about to quote? It would be great.
Oh no, you're talking about the Battlefield thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, this is the follow-up information.
Okay.
I don't know where that tweet went. But yeah, this John guy was the guy who wanted to charge you $1 per reload in Battlefield. Yeah, for some reason.
His exact wording, or like his thought process, was along the lines of, when you spend, 10, 30, 50 hours in a game, if a free to play nowhere because the streamer didn't get hey Vinyl, what's going on?
Yeah, there's actually one of these tweets here was oh my god, I lost it. Yeah. There was somebody who made, like, I think it's like a free kids game or free educational game with microtransactions, and like they don't want to run ads on the platform, especially because like it's for kids and advertising directly to children. Well, that's something that Quebec in Canada has completely outright banned. You shouldn't be advertising directly to children.
No.
So here is that tweet, but they're like, our studio focuses on mobile games for kids. We don't want display advertising to kids because we are against it, and we don't effing want to. Our only way to monetize those games is through in-app purchases. We should be in charge to decide how and how much to monetize our users, not Unity. According to our last year numbers, if we were in 2024, we would owe Unity 109% of our revenue, 1 million of revenue against 1.09 of Unity runtime fees. This means more than we actually earn. And of course, I'm not taking into account salaries, taxes, operational costs, and marketing. Does Unity know anything about mobile games? Someone with a background in EA should be fired for his ignorance about the market. Which kind of ties in that it's actually not his fault. Fun fact about John, Italian guy. I don't
John.
know how to pronounce his last name either.
His name
Yeah,
is John.
we can call him Jonathan for extra effect. Feel like we're parents scolding him. It wasn't actually Jonathan's fault. If anything, it looks a little more like John was against the whole thing. Because a little bit before this announcement, he sold pretty much all of his stocks in Unity. Which looks like a, fuck this, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm not a part of this. Even I was against this. Now I'm just jumping ship.
It feels
If he
like
can prove that he was actually against the decision, he may be able to get around the insider trading charge, which is fraud. So if he can prove that, like, yeah, he was, like, against it, and he's just like, alright, I don't want to do this anymore, I don't want anything to do with this anymore, I actually spoke up against this, he's not going to get charged for that. And so the tweet that I sent earlier here actually goes into detail about, you know, some of the shareholders and the leading shareholders and why it is bad. 2,000 shares against the 50,000 he still has. I think he sold more than that, but I don't quite remember. It most likely must have been, but I can't remember where I read that.
hang on.
I don't have the tweet. That's like one of the tweets that I didn't send. Apparently, hold on.
Yeah, here we go. On September 6, 2023, sold 2,000 shares of the company. Larger trend for the insider over the past year has sold a total of 50,610 shares and purchased none.
Yeah. So if he's like he's selling them bit by bit, which looks like he just wants out.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like he just wants out.
It might have been something that they've been talking about for a long time. Maybe he has been pushing back against it for like a year, and
now he's slowly selling his way out of the company because he's like, fuck it. We're on fire now. Not the good kind.
Yeah. It's it sure do suck.
Mm-hmm.
Because something else that came up with this is people were asking, okay, Unity, how are you tracking who is downloading it, how many times they're downloading it? And as it turns out, with the stuff that Unity wants to implement in their engine, that would keep track of all that stuff based on people's like ISPs, their IP addresses and stuff. In some countries and regions, it could be considered like illegal tracking software, and anybody who publishes a game in Unity could be an accomplice. Banned
from entire countries, including and not limited to the entirety of the EU, because the EU is pretty good about this shit.
So there was a big thing going on. It's like, can Unity even do this legally in some regions?
Yeah, and it's like, thinking about it, if Unity could find a legal way to track PC users' data without, like, not hindering privacy, what's the word? Without breaking privacy and all that stuff, like privacy laws, they would just sell that and make a fortune.
Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't need to do all of this, like, charging runtime bullshit, because, more so than the oil industry, the online information industry is actually, I believe, worth more at this point. I remember I did a study on this in college. Tracking people's information for advertising and all of this other stuff is like a I think it's like $3 billion or $3 trillion industry, which is why Facebook got into all of that trouble, as y'all will remember. And like the NSA and all that other stuff. Y'all probably remember a whole lot about that. We're not going to get into it. But yeah, the information tracking industry on every individual is huge. So if they had that tech, they would just sell that, and they wouldn't need to fuck with the game engine. You know what I mean? But if we want to go into a lot more of the detail, I think, do you mind if I read out the tweet about like the shareholders?
Yeah, please.
Okay. So, what changed? In 2020, Unity went public and a bunch of shitheads bought their way onto Unity's board of directors. Ultimately, the CEO works for the board. So, when these new bosses tell him to do something self-destructive, he does it. Here are the names you should be talking about instead of John. Tomer Barziv, Roloff Botha, both of these nuts. Egon Durban. Sorry. Remember Iron Source, that dogshit monetization company that absolutely everyone in the industry dumped and was circling the drain until Unity bought them for like 4.4 billion? Tomer Barziv is the founder of Iron Source, and following the merger he became Unity's third president along with John and Mark. Yes, this is the asshole who sold a package of malware under the guise of monetization software, and ultimately the root cause of this install tax. Given the Iron Source's history of malware, I feel that it's safe to say the Unity runtime will likely start getting flagged by antivirus programs and casually request admin rights during installation. Sometimes games do that, though. They request admin stuff anyway. It's always sketchy, but I'm just like, fuck it, I'm just playing a video game. I have nothing to hide. Still sketchy, though. How Unity got infected with Iron Source is that Sequoia,
it's a type of tree.
Sequoia. Oh, thank you. Capital and Silver Lake pledged to invest $1 billion into Unity if the deal went through. Frankly, the math doesn't add up for Unity to trade $4.4 billion to buy a plague blanket of a company only to receive $1 billion in return, especially when a rival mobile monetization company offered to pay Unity $17 billion if the called off the Iron Source deal and merged with them instead. Unless the $1 billion was for the sake of C-suite bonuses, in which case all this makes perfect sense. But who the hell is Roloff Botha, these nuts, and Egon Durban? And who are they, and why are they important names? Okay, some of this is a little written iffy, but Roloff is the director of Sequoia. I'm sorry. Egon is the founder of Silver Lake. And both of them have ties back to Elon Musk. Which is pretty telling how fast Unity has caught on fire. If Egon's name is familiar, it is because he was on Twitter's board, and was the one who pushed to have them accept the deal and then got thrown off the board when they realized he was just spying for Elon during the resulting lawsuit. He also was the one who helped Elon fake his taking Tesla private scam. Roloff was the CFO of PayPal before it got acquired and has a long history of being involved with mergers that result in a lot of money for some, but absolute shit deals for the end users. Looping back to the top, I think John is done with Unity, but not in the yay, yes, consumers have protested hard enough to get him fired kind of way the internet wants. I think he was done in 2020 when he went from being the guy actually running the company to the guy who answers to a room full of investment fuckheads. Of the 13 board members, 11 are investment managers, and then gets to take the blame for their shit decisions. I feel like the reason why he sold his stock is because he knew that this was a shit idea that was going to tank the company, but they wouldn't listen. So he cashed out his stock and will be announcing his retirement at the start of Q4. Don't be shocked when Tomer Barziv gets named as a replacement. Yep. PayPal Mafia members, Elon plugs, and that, yada yada.
That is from r/unity by Zidget is the name of the user. I just wanted to also put that out there.
Yeah, so it is on the... I can actually bring up the Reddit itself.
I have it right here.
I know people don't want to hear this. You shouldn't. Okay, so here's the Reddit here, and...
Perfect.
You got it.
Yep.
Handshake. But yeah, I did look into this a little bit, and a lot of the... I didn't look into the entire thing, but the names lined up, and some of, like, the articles about them lined up, so I'm just like, alright, this is definitely, like, sourced, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Because there's...
Molotov bread basket. Oh, God.
But I think for... I think it's also prevalent to point out, or at least it would be irresponsible for us to also not say, yes, Tamar Barzif, Roloff Botha, and Egon Durban do have these histories and are probably also part of the problem. I think it would be irresponsible to just throw out John's name and say, like, oh, well, he wasn't part of the problem. I think to get in that position of power, to be CEO of the company, I think some of his ideals would have to align with these other people.
Wouldn't he have been the one that opened it to the public? Wouldn't that have been his decision? To go public and sell shares?
That's a board decision. That's...
Yeah, but the board of directors bought their way into the company, right? So it would have been, like, him and, like, the internal board.
Yeah.
Because they were private before.
But it still wouldn't have been just his decision alone. Like, he probably had a say in it, but it was, It would
I
probably
feel
be.
like he was like, yeah, we could make money by selling shares and stuff like that. Let's do that. And then specific people bought their way on, and he's just like, oh no, wait, this
But you
isn't how it was supposed to go.
but using this new open commerce thing that they did, he was able to, people bought their way in that he might not have agreed with, and so he was able to sell his way out, or at least he has been. Um,
He's been working on it.
yeah, at least for the past year, I think it was like over the last year he sold 50,000 shares. But
Yeah.
so this came out, everybody hated it. It was universally there was a lot of smaller developers. Like at one point, Devolver Digital was saying, if this is the case, we're going to delete Cult of the Lamb. Make sure you don't buy it
Oh
now.
no, that wasn't Devolver Digital. That was Cult of the Lamb itself.
Was that Cult of the Lamb? They were made by
That was Cult of the Lamb
Massive
and
Mon-
Massive Monster
Okay.
itself.
Okay, so it was developed. Yeah, it was developed by
It was
Massive
a
Monster.
joke, but it was still, that was the first thing I saw.
Yeah.
There was a whole bunch of other things like Wholesome Games, which likes to announce like, those like Stardew Valley likes, unpacking, like they're basically like a company that kind of gives advertising for these calm, cozy, wholesome games.
I loved
They were just like,
unpacking.
a lot of our games are made in Unity. They spoke out against it. The creators of Stray spoke against it.
But it was a lot of these smaller.
Devolver Digital did mention it as well.
I think Devolver Digital might have been the biggest name that put out a public statement, at least that I saw. But names like Nintendo, Ubisoft, Activision, like the bigger company, Nintendo's probably the biggest one. Like the newest Fire Emblem game, Pokemon, Brilliant Diamond, and Shining Pearl.
Yeah.
Like all of these big Nintendo games are made in Unity, but it was quiet from them. And part of me internally, I was thinking maybe Nintendo is willing to eat the cost. Maybe they're preparing a legal statement, because again, it was questionable as to the legality of this.
Yeah.
But before any of that,
oh gosh, I forget. It was Terraria Relogic. They also decided to donate to other gaming engines.
Yeah,
and just to like help them develop past Unity, because they were like, fuck Unity, we can't allow this to happen.
Yeah, it was Godot, and what was the other one they donated to? I saw
FNA.
that. Yeah. So that's cool. That this is kind of pushing for more competition in the space. Try and get more game engines out there as viable options, not just Unity.
Yep.
Unity and Unreal, like those are probably the two biggest ones. But
yeah.
So all this came out, everybody hated it. It might have been illegal, but we do have a
Before we get into that, I also want to quickly mention that they have like on GitHub, they have like the terms of service thing that says if you use the previous version, you're exempt from all of the new updates to the TOS. So if you're using 2021 engine and you don't upgrade to 2022, if they make changes to the TOS in 2022, you're only subject to the 2021. And they just silently deleted that off of their GitHub because they were going to subject everybody to it, which was one of the really, really, really big things that tipped them off. It's like, oh, okay, you're announcing the shitty thing that we don't like, but you're also silently deleting things in the background, which was the thing that really broke trust, I think, more so than just this shitty announcement, right?
Oh yeah.
But yeah.
I think even if after all of this, Unity said, hey, that thing we just said, not going to happen at all, everything is going to stay the same, I think there's just no more trust in Unity after this because they tried to pull this. Even if it turns out nothing changes next year, people are still mad.
I think that, like, because they do have a new announcement, if that does still end up being favorable for some companies, they can actually go and finish the games that they're finishing and then port to a different one. But the danger with that, especially losing the trust, is like, even if like, the fire has been quelled for now, they might just light it back on fire in another year or two. We never know. Especially if John jumps ship and the Tomer guy or some other shithead ends up being the CEO. Especially if they're just an investment guy. So this whole selling shares thing, Does it selling shares and then everything catching on fire? Does this not sound familiar? Anybody remember Cyberpunk?
Mm-hmm.
The reason why CD Projekt Red pushed that game out is because investors, even though they'd been working on it for 13 years and had to adjust to like new consoles within that time and whatnot, so yeah, okay, that's a thing, but like, these investors, after they went public, were like, hey, why isn't this game out? Why are we not making money? And they don't give a shit about video games. They're probably like, they're like our fucking boomer grandparents. Like they don't know shit about video games, right? They just want money.
Mm-hmm.
And so they got pressured to release a broken game. And then we're just like, what the fuck did you do? And it's like, no, y'all fucking,
Yeah. I want to read the new post that Unity put out. The open letter thing. I'm just gonna post
I am sorry.
Yeah. So after everything came out and it was really bad, here's what we have now to work with. This is from how long ago? This is from
days, I think.
Yeah, couple days ago from Mark Whitten.
September 22nd.
Yep. To our community, I'm Mark Whitten and I lead Unity Create, which includes the Unity engine and editor teams. I want to start with this. I am sorry. We should have spoken with more of you, and we should have incorporated more of your feedback before announcing our new runtime fee policy. Our goal with this policy is to ensure we can continue to support you today and tomorrow, and keep deeply investing in our game engine. You are what makes Unity great, and we know we need to listen and work hard to earn your trust. We have heard your concerns. We are making changes to the policy we announced to address them. Our Unity Personal plan will remain free, and there will be no runtime fee for games built in Unity Personal. Basically, what they already said. If you're using this as a hobbyist, you're not going to pay. We already knew that. That's not new. We will be increasing the cap from $100,000 to $200,000, and we will remove the requirement to use the Made in Unity splash screen. I think what they mean by that is the threshold of sales, like if it passes a certain threshold in sales from $100,000 to $200,000 to be considered like a personal account.
Yeah.
No game with less than $1 million in trailing 12-month revenue will be subject to the fee. For those creators on Unity Pro and Unity Enterprise, we are also making changes based on your feedback. The runtime fee policy will only apply beginning with the next LTS version of Unity, shipping in 2024 and beyond. Your games that are currently shipped and the projects you are currently working on will not be included unless you choose to upgrade them with this new version of Unity. So basically, if you just run on the 2023 version of Unity for the next 4 or 5 years, yeah, it's going to be technically out of date, but people are making great games now. But it just sounds like you don't need to update. But anybody who jumps onto Unity now, before all of this happens, before next year, they're going to have to deal with that. We will make sure that you will stay on the term. We will make sure that you can stay on the terms applicable for the version of Unity editor you are using, as long as you keep using that version. For games,
so that's the GitHub stuff that they had deleted that they're now putting back because people realized it because they deleted it secretly without a word.
So that isn't even anything new, they're just putting it back. Okay.
Yep.
Cool. For games that are subject to the runtime fee, we are giving you a choice of either a 2.5% revenue share or the calculated amount based on the number of new people engaging in your game each month. Both of these numbers are self-reported from data you already have available. You will always be billed the lesser amount. So
that means that they are not going to try their little malware shtick. They're going to take the reported numbers from the devs themselves instead of tracking it themselves, which they couldn't do legally.
What bothers me about this is they're still being charged. It's like you're either going to be charged based on how many new people are interacting, like if there's an uptick in sales, or they're going to be charged an overall revenue share of, if not a lot of people are engaging, but you're still making money off of, something else, like if it's discounted or something. Your 2.5% revenue share, you're going to be billed. You will always be billed the lesser amount, is still, you're going to be billed. which
Yeah.
for some smaller developers that could make or break your company.
And that makes me think of situations that's kind of like, so for example, let's say like some big streamer decides to pick up some random indie game that was released 4 years ago, and that indie studio's just kind of like, working away at their own pace. And let's say like Moist Critical picks up like this indie game out of nowhere from 4 years ago, and now all of a sudden they've got all of this fucking engagement because of all of his followers getting the game, and now there's just like all of a sudden there's just like this huge bill out of nowhere. There is like an influx in like, money because they're selling copies, but at the same time it's like, and they might not have even been expecting that sort of thing, you know what I mean? And so they're just hit with like this bill, and it's just like, well, wait, what the fuck are we supposed to
Exactly.
like half of it is gone just because of Unity itself.
Because games that are out for so long, like if we think about like a company that, they make games at their own pace, there's years apart between the releases, a new game isn't going to stay at new game price forever. Shovel Knight, like waiting on new stuff from, what is it, Studio Yacht Club Studio, something like that, like waiting on new stuff from them. Shovel Knight is probably going to be, on sale or something, and if they get those upticks, they're not getting as much money, but they're still being charged for all that new engagement.
Yeah.
And
it also makes me think of this one thing. What was it? This one tweet that I found like really depressingly funny is like, the Silk Song is delayed another 5 years to get ported off Unity tweet being liked by a programmer at Team Cherry hit me like I just got shot.
Oh man.
Silk Song 1.
Man. Alright, we want to continue to build the best engine for creators. We truly love this industry, and you are the reason why. And I'd like to invite you, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, the same day that this came out, they had, like, a live stream going on with somebody else, hosted by Jason Wyman, 4 p.m. ET, 1 p.m. PT. Creates this idea where you might as well take your old games off the market so they don't oversell you on charges. Yeah, exactly. And what the last bit here is thank you for caring as deeply as you do. Thank you for giving us the feedback, Mark Witten. Basically, it feels like half measures. Instead of saying, hey, we're sorry, they said, hey, we're sorry, but like it went from 4% revenue share to 2.5% revenue share, which, if we're looking at singular numbers, that is a marginal difference. That's almost cutting it in half, almost. But it feels like if you give them an inch, they'll take a mile. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if the terms of service going from 2024 into 2025 said, hey, we're increasing that 2.5% revenue share up to 3%. And then by 2027, it's up to 4%, 4.5%. They're gonna keep chipping away at it. They're gonna keep seeing how much they can get away with before eventually, legally, somebody says, fucking stop.
Yup. Oh yeah, and then there's also this fun little post here, which just goes to show that they don't necessarily need to do this, and that they're just being greedy in doing so. Which is, Unity has one of the highest paid gaming CEOs ever, by the way. And there's John Tortellini right there in number 6.
God, there's just a list of terrible. Fuck Bobby Kotick. Fuck. God.
Team 17, doesn't Team 17 do a bunch of like indie stuff though? Like Team 17 isn't bad. They did like Golf with Friends and other stuff.
I honestly didn't see that. My mic was in the way of the screen. I didn't see the last name there.
They did Dredge, Blasphemous 2, Workana. I think they're a publisher though. Gord, moving out to Conscript. So they publish like Team 17. I wouldn't necessarily say is like bad. Worms, MD. All game. Can I look at like all games? Hello. Or did Team 17, are they the ones that took, Candy Crush?
No, Candy Crush was...
Age of Darkness.
Candy Crush was King, I think.
Yeah, but somebody bought King. Or King bought somebody, I don't remember. Golf with Friends,
Microsoft bought King.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and that's...
King of the Castle, they did King of the Castle. Monster Sanctuary... My Time at Portia, Neon Abyss.
Okay, I know. I've heard of these games. I don't think I've played one yet that you've named, but I know these games. And these are
Escapists, Survivalist, Thymesia. Thymesia was pretty popular. Worms, the Worms MD games, like the Worms, Ukulele, and the Impossible Lair. So they have taken a lot of like mostly indie stuff and published it. So they're like a pretty decent publisher, I'd say, kind of like the Devolver Digital. As for the other ones, Razor's just like the fucking like the mice in like the headsets and stuff, aren't they?
I'm sorry, one more time. I was reading something. I'm sorry.
Oh, no worries. Razor.
Yeah, Razer is a lot of...
They're just like accessories.
Activision bought King, and then Microsoft bought Activision.
Oh, yeah.
If you look at... Microsoft likes to put up this big banner of like, oh, look at all these...
Instead of Return to Monkey, it's Return to Microsoft.
And they like to put up this big banner of like, oh, look at the gaming family, and it's like, you see Master Chief, Call of Duty, World of Warcraft, Candy Crush. They have like 6 games that they keep showing over and over again on this banner.
Where's Spyro? Where's Crash?
They don't care. I just on a whim, I decided to look up that Debbie, the CEO of Team 17, and it looks like she pushes some internal culture that is detrimental to the employees, I will say. She's been accused of ignoring harassment, presenteeism culture, which is that sort of, working even while you're sick, making it seem like, oh no, we're doing great when internally everybody is miserable. But she's pushing that whole, present to the outside world and for shareholders, like, oh no, we're doing great. At least that's what she's been accused of. Last year, yeah, a lot of people kind of came forward and said that they don't like working for her. But I feel like that's every big CEO. But I digress. Yeah. This is about Unity.
They're a publisher, right?
I think so. But this is about Unity. I don't want to get too deep in the weeds with that.
Yeah, we can cover that another time. Or we could even go back into it a little bit when we get into Monopolies if we do today. I think we should have time today.
Oh yeah, oh my god, it's barely been like an hour and a half, yeah.
Yeah.
We're doing great. Circling back to Unity, though, they put out the apology statement, but it feels like half measures. It feels like they're still going to try and push it every year to see how much they can get away with. But I think developers are doing the right thing. We saw some donations to other development softwares or some other engines. We've seen people say that, hey, sorry, but the game that we've been working on is going to take a little extra time because we're porting it out of Unity. Lots of people are saying, even though this Unity stuff isn't as bad as it could have been, we're still moving away from Unity because they're...
Yeah, we don't trust this shit no more.
Yeah, and I mentioned it,
Fuck this shit, I'm out.
I don't think I mentioned it before we started streaming, but I mentioned it in the Discord a little bit ago. By the way, there's a Discord if anybody would like to continue into these conversations.
On it.
Oh, shit. Awesome. Fucking incredible mod. Thank you so much. But it's called like the dead cat, when a studio or like a person, you see it a lot in politics, where somebody will say or do something atrocious or, really bad, and then something worse comes along that is just kind of used as a fake argument of like, oh, look at this worse thing. So in this case, like for Unity, they put out the worst case scenario of like, oh, here's all the bullshit we want to do, bordering illegal behavior. And then they rolled it back and they said, well, here's what we're going to do instead. Here's a half measure that you didn't get a say in. But they're able to fall back on the argument of, no matter how much you push back on them for, hey, this still sucks, they're able to push back and say, at least it wasn't the first thing we did. And that's kind of the dead cat argument. It stems from I don't think it was a real scenario, but like the philosophical or the ideological, the idea of it is that the CEO walks into a boardroom of investors and says, hey, we're in the red this final quarter. We're going to have to cut back on everybody's salary. We're going to have to lay people off. Some people are going to have to go without, a holiday, bonus, all of this bad shit. And the investors are mad. And instead of, trying to put out the fire, the CEO reaches into a bag, pulls out a dead cat, and throws it on the table. Everybody is now freaking out, like, what the fuck is that? What are you doing? And the CEO is like, well, you're not thinking about the cut costs, you're not thinking about us losing money now. Like, it's just this play to try and deflect. And I feel like it's been done in reverse here, where they present
the policy.
They present the worst thing first, and they're able to back it up a little bit, and now it's like, oh, but look, everything is fine, because it's not that first bad thing that clearly everybody hated. Everybody hated it, so everything is fine now, because we're not doing that. So I don't know if this is a publicity thing. If so...
Make things seem worse than it is, then pull back, and then people feel relief and kind of forget about it.
Yeah, and it's awful. And I don't trust like that. I don't think that this is a genuine play by Unity to try and keep some of their public image, because that's not going to work. They've already pissed people off. I think this is Unity, and again, this is, I can't, I don't want to accuse anybody of anything, but I think this is a play by Unity to still get something. Maybe the 2.5%, maybe the 2.5% profit share, maybe the $200,000 threshold. Like, maybe this was all stuff that they had planned anyway, but they knew that wouldn't sell on its own. So they presented this worst one, and they were able to roll it back. They knew it wouldn't play well, so they rolled it back. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being paranoid, but...
Sometimes these rich people at the top are so stupid and out of touch with reality anyway, as we've seen with SAG-AFTRA. Like... with Elon Musk and like a lot of other rich people, or like if you knew a rich kid in high school, if you knew like a super rich kid in like college or university, and they go and it's like, oh, how often do you go out on your yacht during the summer? And it's just like, normal people don't own a fucking yacht. What the fuck are you on about, right?
Yeah.
And then like the billionaire guy is just like, I'd rather watch these people starve before I give them what they want. And, like, all this other shit. So, like, a lot of people are so out of touch sometimes. They're just like, oh, yeah, it's fine. It doesn't matter. You know what I mean? So, it could be a little bit of that. It could be exactly what you're saying. And then...
you just think they're
just kind of spooky in general.
Yeah, you think it's the out-of-touch greed where it's like, oh, if we get, $20,000 from their game, it's like, that's chump change. Nobody's gonna... $20,000, that's a life-changing amount of money. That is an insane amount of money, and they're probably just like, oh, that's barely anything. Yeah. Blaze,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Blaze brought up, I don't like how investors have such a big say in things in the gaming industry, but those investors know nothing about gaming and game development at all. They don't, and they don't need to know, because their job is business. They don't have to know. We talked about this a little bit before going live with Doug Bowser. Doug Bowser does not have a background in games. His background is in finance and business, and he is now in charge of Nintendo of America. You don't need to know these things to be in charge. To run a business, you don't need to know or care what the business is about. Because at the end of the day, for people like this who are either out of touch because of their privilege, because of their class, or out of touch because of their position in the industry ladder, Doug Bowser, it's all numbers to him. Like, he might know names, he might know some people, but he doesn't know every employee of Nintendo. It's all numbers to him. He knows how many employees... Like, he can look at a spreadsheet and know... He can look at a spreadsheet of all the employee names, but he doesn't know those people. He can just see, oh, there's so many employees working here, so many employees working there, working on this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's...
despite, like, playing with, like, the whole Bowser name and stuff like that, and making himself seem almost as fun as Reggie. Well, now that things have started, you don't really see a whole lot of that anymore, no, do you? I still do love the touch of just Mario and Luigi plushies just tied up behind him. That was adorable. And, like, I'm sorry.
No, again, I think it was a public relations thing because people fucking loved Reggie Fils-Aimé in charge of Nintendo, so he knew coming into it, or maybe somebody who was more in touch than he was would
Oh
say,
yes, the guy who got GameStop into NFTs.
yeah, hey, he was cool before.
Yeah,
But somebody who
kind
was
of like
somebody who
hipster
wasn't
shit.
somebody
Sorry.
it's all good. Somebody who wasn't so out of touch for Doug Bowser probably said, "Hey, people loved Reggie Fils-Aimé. They might not, they might not like you right away. Here's something we can do to get them to like you." He probably, I'm not gonna say he outright doesn't know what Mario and Bowser is. That's one of the most, Mario is probably one of the most iconic gaming. Like, you could argue it's like, oh, Pikachu or Mario or something, but Mario is definitely top 3 most recognizable like gaming mascots.
Yeah,
One
Mario
of
and Pikachu, I would say, are tied, especially considering Pokemon itself is actually like the #1 biggest franchise in the world, more so than Mario.
that's why I say like it's kind of a coin flip for those two. But still, like that's kind of the point though, is that Nintendo owns both of those, so it's such a huge business. It doesn't matter if Doug Bowser knows anything about them.
Oh, sorry.
He's never played a Pokemon game in his life.
Doesn't need to, I guess. It's also kind of like Nintendo has its own sort of like niche where it's just like they'll never be on, like, for the most part those games will never be on PC. But at the same time, it's like you're always going to have a Nintendo console because they're always like they're cute, they're fun. You know what I mean? It's kind of like they're kind of like their own separate thing, and they always have been, and they always will be. And like outside of games like Pokemon Unite not being on PC, because oh my god, that game needs to be on PC, and then I'll wreck all of those children. Like, it's like I don't really think twice about like owning a Nintendo console versus all of the other stuff that I could have on PC, especially because I don't necessarily care for all of those photorealistic AAA titles myself, and a lot of people feel the same, where it's just like I don't care about playing a lot of people don't necessarily care about playing the latest Call of Duty, the latest Assassin's Creed. They don't necessarily need the PlayStation 5 or the Xbox, but you need the Nintendo so you can get the next Pokemon game or the next Mario game or like the next Fire Emblem game. You know what I mean? There's like, and then the opposite is also true. People care more about Ass Creed and whatever else that they do want the other console. But I feel like Nintendo is a little bit more special in that sense.
Yeah.
Especially because you can get Ass Creed on PC anyway. But like, even like the PlayStation exclusives, like the most special one, the biggest one I think, IMO, is probably just Spider-Man. Like, because, like, if Spider-Man being like PlayStation exclusive, so you get a PlayStation for Spider-Man, and that's like the biggest thing they have. And that's the only thing I can name. Versus like, Pokemon, Mario, Fire Emblem, now Bayonetta. Like, all of these other, like, big IPs where it's just worth it to have, like, a Nintendo console if you care about, like, these big IPs.
Yeah, I think there's a prestige with Nintendo, because Nintendo used to be competitive in the market. Well, they're still competitive, but they used to be, like Nintendo and Sega. And then Nintendo pushed Sega out of the console market.
And then just bought them.
Nintendo can just kind of coast now.
Yeah.
I think the console war is basically over. You still have people arguing about...
Nintendo secretly won.
Well, you still have people arguing about, like, all the differences and which one is better, but, like, at this point, Microsoft is just such a nebulous gaming platform, because you can get Game Pass on PC, so why would you need to buy an Xbox?
Exactly, like, there's no point in owning an Xbox.
Yeah, no,
I don't understand why people own Xbox. Well, it's cheaper than getting an actual PC, but an actual PC is more worth the investment because it's not going to be outdated in 4 years, or if it is, you just upgrade that one part and you're good to go, which costs less than getting the next-gen console at that point.
Yeah.
So, one big block sum, and then less money generation after generation versus $500 and, like, $600-700 for this console, $600-700 for this console, not to mention the fucking scramble it was to get one of these new consoles in the first place.
Oh my god, I remember being up at...
Just get a PC, bro.
I remember being up at 2 in the morning waiting for the PlayStation, like, the Sony Store to update, just to try and get in the queue for a PS5. I remember having to do that. It was fucking ludicrous. But there's this prestige to, they needed to create so many, iconic characters, iconic IPs to push Sega out of the market. They were able to do that, and now they can, in terms of console design, they can coast on, it's like, oh, we're gonna do something fun. We'll do like motion controls, I guess, for the Wii. They just thought of like, here's a fun peripheral we can do, or like
they were really innovative.
They got really into the handheld market, and the only other system, or the only other company that's really been able to push into that has been Sony, but Sony half-asses it. They dropped the PSP, they supported it for a few years and then it died. Vita, they supported it for a couple years and then it died.
Yeah, and if anything, the only reason you really needed one is for a whole bunch of like these super niche JRPGs that were super popular on the Vita at the time as well. Because I can't really think of anything that was central to the Vita that was super special that wouldn't have just been on like the main console, to be honest.
Uncharted Golden Abyss. I can name one.
There you go. But that's also like the kind of like the same thing as like, oh god, I can't think of let's go with the Spiral isometric games that like everyone loves to forget about, right? Versus just having the main platformer series on a console. It's like kind of like that little tiny offshoot that like nobody talks about or nobody remembers because it was just like niche on a fucking like mobile device or something. There's a couple Nintendo. Yeah, there's definitely a whole bunch of like Nintendo examples that I can't think of right now because
Persona Q.
I loved Persona Q. That was my first Persona.
But you don't need them.
But it was cute.
It is cute. The Spiral isometric games are cute. Because
I loved them, even though they were ass. The long glides in the fucking isometric system was stupid. I can't see where. Oh, there was where I'm supposed to go. Okay. Yeah. I missed it again. Oh.
I agree with this, Blaze. It's a loyalty. It's like a brand loyalty thing where people have been on Xbox for years. It's like people have memories. Like I have fond memories. If Risen is still here, I have very fond memories of playing like Xbox 360 with him, in middle school, junior high-ish. Just getting home from school, and it's just back when things were so much easier. It's like, oh, I don't have homework to worry about. I can just chill out and do whatever. Like I have very fond memories of that. So people who have those. All good. So like you have those people who played on, original Xbox to 360, moved to Xbox One because that's where their friends gamed, that's where they met some people that are like important to their gaming, history. And so they keep moving on with these people. But
they're the first to do the achievement system, right?
Yes.
And then Steam adapted that.
Yes, I think
like achievement hunters came from Xbox.
I think so, because I know Xbox was the first console to do it. Nintendo hasn't yet implemented it. PlayStation implemented it in later versions of the same generation. Like 360 had it.
PS3, I think, right?
PS3 eventually had it. There's a couple very early PS3 games that don't have trophy support that I wish did have trophy support.
Before we get achievements, I want themes on Switch. Like PlayStation has. I want themes. They had it on the DS.
Yeah, the new PlayStations don't have themes, unfortunately. Like the Switch doesn't have. Yeah, the Switch doesn't have themes. The PlayStation does this kind of cool thing where it'll, like, for each game that you have highlighted, it'll do like a splash art and it'll play music from the game, and it looks really cool. It doesn't do that for every game.
Yeah, it's got a fancy menu.
Yeah, but that's part of the reason they're not doing.
I guess that's got to be incorporated by the dev rather than the PlayStation, right?
Yeah, it's mostly like games that were designed for PlayStation 5, because like if you just download a PS4 game and look at it, it doesn't really do that. Sometimes it'll have like the box art as just like the splash art, just like a blown up version of the art. Like the loading screen when you first start up the Spiral Reignited trilogy, where it's like the big like full like panoramic of like all three games. It'll have like that up on the screen. Game Pass sells games that PC game. Oh, Xbox Game Pass still has games that PC Game Pass doesn't have, plus not everyone wants to invest money into a PC setup. Consoles are simplistic, basically plug and play, which is way more convenient for the common person. Yeah, I agree with
Like,
that.
I understand that, but in the end of the day, like I mentioned it earlier, I don't know if you heard, like it really isn't worth it at the end of the day if you can get the same stuff on PC because you could just you could have me. I don't know shit about PCs, but I have a really good friend who does, who built my current thing, built my last thing, and like, okay, there's stuff on the Game Pass, but at the same time with a PC a PC has more utility in the first place. Like you're going to need a PC in your home to write your emails, sometimes to do work and other things, so you might as
Hmm.
well invest in one that's good enough to do everything that you want to do, and then just get the console if you really care. Like like I'm not necessarily PC's master race because I understand plug and play, and also I love Nintendo and I love Switch and I love the Joy-Cons, and I wish the Steam Deck had detachable controllers because then I would have bought one by now.
I wish it wasn't
But
like $100 for the new set of Joy-Cons because they're really cute pastels, but I can't justify dropping.
don't tell me that. Why did you tell me that?
There,
Fuck.
yeah, there's a set that's like the pastel watermelon colors of like pink and green, and then there's a purple and yellow pastel set, but it's like 80 USD for each set, so that's like $40 for a single Joy-Con.
I
It's
mean
the
that's all the much. Oh wait, no, they were 90 Canadian before. Oh no, that's more expensive.
mm-hmm.
It's something you want to just. I was a console gamer. I didn't have a computer. Like, okay, so I'm 30 years old. I didn't have a computer until my own actual computer that I could play video games on until 2013. So I barely had the money for consoles in the first place. My one uncle wouldn't give me back my fucking PS3 that my stepdad had bought for me. But like, I was essentially like console slash handheld gamer. So like, I do understand the simplicity of it. Plus, if I had to build my own PC, I would have been fucked, right? I would have just bought a pre-built off like Newegg and gotten scammed or something like that. But at the same time, I'm not denying the fact that I can do everything that I need to on my PC plus gaming, so it really is worth the investment at the end of the day. Like, it actually is worth the investment at the end of the day, and like denying that is not. I don't know.
I've been I've been getting back into I did a little bit of PC gaming, but like I've always been PlayStation. And that just comes from like growing up, my parents also gamers. I feel very lucky to have been raised by people who also enjoyed video games. So, like I had the PS1, PS2, and then, you know, that kind of rolled into you said the biggest PlayStation exclusive you can name is Spider-Man, and I mean those Spider-Man games are on Steam now. So why would you get a PlayStation just for Spider-Man? But I mean, like, there's dozens of, and I think that's one of the things that PlayStation does better than Xbox, because Xbox exclusives are few and far between, and they haven't been great. Redfall was a huge disappointment, but it is what it is. I understand that I've been getting back into, you know, PC gaming more with like Baldur's Gate. I've been playing Borderlands 2 a little bit with patches, and it's a good time, and it runs so much. Like, I was blown away at how well Borderlands 2 was running on a PC, because that game runs like ass on console.
Yeah.
And it's a game from like it's an 11-year-old game.
Yeah, even with like, well, I guess with my old 460 and like older setup and stuff like that, my fucking PC, like it's an older PS3 game, and like my PC was having trouble running it off stream. That being said, it wasn't the most powerful setup, but at the same time, it shouldn't have struggled with shit like that. When I was able to actually, like, I was able to run Final Fantasy 15 perfectly, loading times aside, and I was struggling to run Borderlands 2, and this is like off stream, right?
Mm-hmm.
Add OBS into the mix, and it's completely different.
Oh yeah, I would not be able to stream Baldur's Gate 3. I love that game. I would not be able to stream it.
I might be able to, actually.
Even on, like, it says like, oh, here's the optimal settings, and it's like medium all the way across, and it still stutters for me. I'd have to play it on like super low settings.
Sony will survive, if anything, just because of Japan. In, like, from what I know. Because, like, Japan loves Sony. They don't care about Xbox at all. They never did. And nobody should really smile. Anyway, the JRPG, like JRPG enthusiasts love PlayStation, and they Sony pumps out a lot of JRPGs, so Sony will stay afloat because of Japan alone, if anything.
I think Sony, because I'm trying to think about when we're in like an evolutionary state in the console market right now, because the line between PC and console is getting, you know, more and more blurred, where, you know, before it was, oh, well, the difference was, you know, the PS2 runs better than most PCs that people can play on, and, you know, just because
Yeah,
they
and
were
all you had
designed
was
for
like
that.
CRPGs anyway, which was niche as fuck anyway.
But now you're starting to get to this space. Risen brought up a good point where Xbox is promoting, or Microsoft is promoting Xboxes as entertainment devices. I remember when they did this for the Xbox One, they said, you know, it's going to be constantly online. You can plug in your cable box through it, so everything is controlled by one remote. You can do all of the, you know, they wanted
Who has cable anymore?
some people. But again, this was like 20...
If you're older than 40, you probably do.
But again, this was like 2013. This was like the only really streaming services out there were like Netflix and maybe Hulu.
Yeah, of course, it's the American branch. Why wouldn't it be?
So I think California are the ones. Yeah. But I agree that the international market, like globally, I feel like Sony's gonna hang on all right. I don't think we're gonna be getting a big like Xbox. Like I don't think there's gonna be an Xbox generation past this one. We might get like a GameFly Netflix style streaming app, you know, pay for like what Google Stadia was trying to do, where it's all, you know, an online service. It's all cloud.
Nobody's gonna like that. That's why Stadia fucking failed.
But
you know what I want? I want the fucking KF console.
Yes.
I want a fried chicken while I play video games. Hell yeah.
Looks so good.
Why the fuck not?
Yeah, no, streaming games is not great.
Nobody likes streaming games, yeah. All of those games that people actually enjoyed that nobody else enjoyed that they can't play anymore because they were stream games or like live service games, and like we did a whole talk about that and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and like going back into like that kind of thing, did you not see the new Xbox thing where it's just like a fucking, it's just like it's literally just an Alexa and it doesn't have like a CD drive, and you can buy a thing to have a CD drive. It's like, everybody's complaining about the lack of like physical games, like you can only download games. It's like, oh, we've got like 2 terabytes. It's just like, yeah, but what happens when you fucking nix your store?
When games are 500 gigabytes, you know, when games are fucking massive, that it can hold
doesn't matter.
It can hold maybe at most like 6-7 games, even if they're smaller games. You know, you're not going to be.
Another reason to get a PC, you can have as many hard drives as your cables can manage. I have 5 hard drives currently.
I put in a beefy like internal like 4 terabyte hard drive into this PC just for my games. I've allocated all of my games just to one specific hard drive.
I play a lot of Sweden Official. Welcome in.
Hello, Sweden. Welcome in. Sony has already fumbled the PS5 despite the console being out for 3 years. Literally only has. Yeah, and that comes from, and again, so
Infamous. I want them to port Infamous to PC. I would play that. I would try to beat that game.
I've never liked the mentality of this console is better than this console. I've never liked the idea of exclusivity for consoles, because this is art that people spend years of their lives on. And the more people that have access to that art, the more people who can experience these games,
the more money you make.
Exactly. Joseph Farah's games. I think his games are super fun in that, super innovative. Brothers, Tale of Two Sons, that one divorce simulator game from a couple years ago.
Divorce simulator? I have never heard of these.
It Takes Two. That's what it's called.
Oh, It Takes Two.
Yeah, divorce simulator.
Oh, okay. I wanted to play that.
I have it, I think. I haven't played. I watched a couple friends play it, though, on like a Discord call. You can blame the old virus if you want, but at this point it's just embarrassing. Yeah.
A Way Out. Oh, I've heard of that one.
A Way Out was so good. If you haven't, I would recommend.
Oh, wasn't that published by Ubisoft or something? No, that was published by. Who was this published by? Cause my that's the Prison Break thing, right? My roommate wanted me to play this, and I looked at it, and I'm like, this is not.
Thompson, yeah. Swedish Movies Grade 2. It was an EA game.
EA. Oh, okay, that's it. One of those. They're.
But yeah, if you have not experienced A Way Out, I would recommend. It's 2-player only, but I would recommend like going into it completely blind. That is a great game.
A Way Out?
Yeah, I think it's only good for like one good playthrough. Like, but once you know the story, I don't think it can replay as well. But
Yeah, as long as I can sabotage my co-player. I mean, work together with my co-player. I would
exactly.
be the reason for the voice. I am the kind of person, like, if you're playing Borderlands with me, I'll have the car. I'll wait for you to get close to the car and drive away right before you press the button. And
That's
then
me.
swerve back
That's
and make you fucking time your button press so that you can get in the car just so we can go somewhere and we'll be there for 10 minutes because I'm cackling my fucking ass off.
yeah. Oh my
Don't play
god.
co-op with me.
No, if we ever
asshole.
do a co-op stream for Borderlands, that's gonna be just an absolute nightmare. It's gonna be like a 4-hour stream, and we're not even at a Firestone. It's gonna
Oh,
be.
you want this gun? Drops it. You run over to grab it. I pick it up again. Run over. Drop it over there. You want this gun, right? Grabs it again.
But yeah, oh fuck, what were we exclusivity in the gaming market.
Yeah.
Like,
Sorry.
no, it's all good. Like, I understand PlayStation being like, oh, we have these are the games to buy PlayStation for. They're only on PlayStation. But when these games get ported to Steam, like,
they're getting ported to Steam.
yeah, like, I mean, and the on launch, the ports aren't great. Look at the Last of Us port. But, you know, Last of Us, Horizon, God of War, Spider-Man, all these big games, Ratchet and Clank.
Playing Last of Us if they didn't make Last of Us 2 the dumpster fire violent piece of garbage that it is.
Yeah, I think, like,
That's a tale.
Morality is subjective. However, I don't feel emotionally invested when the gameplay loop is literally keep shooting people, and then the second you get to a named character and it's like, I can't do it, that would make me just as bad as they are. I don't feel morally justified in that.
It punishes you for making violent choices that the game forces you to make.
Yeah, they literally said you don't
kind of like a stupid morality battle that doesn't tell itself very well.
Yeah, because the part of it was like, oh, you don't have to kill any dogs. Like, some of the enemies will have, like, dogs that will chase you. You don't have to kill them. You could run, or you could do a stealth section. There's an unskippable, like, quick time event halfway through the game where it's literally kill the dog. Like, you get jumped and you have no choice but to stab the dog, which is very upsetting. I think that's just a bold-faced lie where they say you don't have to kill the dog, and there's literally an unskippable portion of the game where you but I digress. I love when the art that people have worked so hard on is able to get to a wider audience. So as much as I think exclusives might help keep Sony alive, I think them pushing more into a publisher space than a console space, like, I wouldn't be surprised if, like, PlayStation and, like, by the end of the decade, if PlayStation and Xbox are both, like, streaming services that you can download on your PC. Like, right now, you can download... I have them both right here on my little start bar. I have PlayStation Plus and Xbox as little menus, and those are, like, games that you own digitally through Xbox, and then PlayStation Plus, you have to pay for that subscription. But I wouldn't be surprised if in the future it's exclusively that, you know, maybe
the PlayStation Plus, what they could do if they wanted to be really nice to their users, especially when publishing, just thinking of that, is like any of their games that do become available on PC, if you own it on PlayStation, you can still play it on your PC because you still own the copy of the game.
Mm-hmm. I would love a universal disc reader that you could plug into your PC. You know, so, you know, if you put in, like, a PS4 game, the PlayStation app will open up and it'll say, oh, welcome. But that no way in hell they would ever do that.
Yeah.
About crossplay and cross progression. Yup.
I don't know. The one thing about Nintendo that I think is keeping it strong as well is, while Xbox and Sony are so obsessed with this, like, AAA mainstream normie photorealistic just violence and, like, you know, like, it's always like just the same, like, white guy protagonist. It's always like the same kind of, like, you know, photorealism, the same style and all that stuff. Like, the Call of Duty graphics are the same as Assassin's Creed graphics, are the same as Uncharted graphics, you know what I mean? Nintendo actually has like a little bit more of a niche in the fact that they try to fill other I'm not even just talking about anime. They have like just other artistic senses and other styles of things that like all these AAA titles are trying to copy each other. Like you had PUBG, Fortnite, Apex, all of this other stuff. It's just like, and like it does happen a lot in Japan, don't get me wrong. I can bring up my Steam and name a place PSP copy of like Persona that wasn't very good, Mine Zero, which is pretty ass, but I'm gonna play it anyway because fuck it, why not, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like Nintendo itself, I mean, is always trying to do something like niche and different, so it's always kind of worth it to have a Nintendo, whereas like if you have an Xbox, you don't need a PlayStation. If you have a PlayStation, you don't have an Xbox. You don't need an Xbox. And eventually if you have a PC, you might not necessarily need either one of those, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I feel like that's a thing, because it's not like this, like you get a lot of the same thing all the time. Pokemon just now started trying to do something different at least. Mario's always trying to innovate.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, not even just these IPs, and then they try to innovate more IPs. Like, they had ARMS. Nobody remembers ARMS because it sucked, but they tried, right? You know what I mean?
Loved ARMS. I would... I would...
Apparently it sucked. I don't know. I never played it, because, like, I'm not a fighting game person, but, like, you know, they're always trying to take something that may be done and put a different spin on it, or try to be, like, more creative than, like, most of, like, that mainstream like nonsense, like that FPS nonsense. They're all like Warzone, you know what I mean? Like they're all just imitating each other, and it's all just like shooty.
I saw,
and like, I don't know.
I saw a great post that it was talking more about movies, but throughout like the 2010s there was this push towards photorealism, and it showed a side by side of Michael Bay's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie and the new one that just came out.
Yeah,
and
I don't like the animation. It looks very framey. I don't like it as a stylistic choice. I don't know why.
It's animated on, I think they did something similar to...
It's animated on a Nintendo Wii.
I think they animated it similar to Spider-Verse, where certain characters will be animated on 2s and other characters will be animated on 4s, just depending on their specific style.
Yeah, I saw that, but it doesn't look as good as Spider-Verse.
I don't think it looks as good as Spider-Verse. However, photorealism, in my opinion,
overrated.
Is bare minimum art direction. Give me genuine art direction any day, and that's what Nintendo thrives at. You know,
exactly.
Zelda games will look different throughout. You know, they even in what 2005, 2006 when they had Twilight Princess, that was probably the closest they got to like a photorealistic Link. But even then, like that had like a nice, like I think the colors in that game are very nice. You know, the use of
it still had like an art style to it. It wasn't just like white guy with a buzz cut and like had like, you know, a different clothes, you know, the Zelda clothes and stuff like that, and even like the wolf. It looked like a wolf, but at the same time it still looks stylized in a way. I don't know.
Yeah,
and I don't think that's necessarily true that it's like they're all cartoony just because the Nintendo can't handle photorealism. I think that's not necessarily true. I don't think that's accurate at all. That's just like, you know, Nintendo style in general. Because like you have well, I guess this isn't necessarily Nintendo, but like even in like with like the Japanese scene, like you have like a whole bunch of like the anime style stuff. Like you'll have like Fire Emblem, and then you'll have like Final Fantasy 16, where that's all photorealistic as well. And I don't know. They did still try to do a lot of that stuff. Like they have like much better textures on Pokemon and stuff like that. But you're not gonna make Pikachu look like a real mouse all of a sudden. You know what I mean?
No, I think the closest we were ever gonna get to photorealistic Pokemon is the Detective Pikachu movie. Like there's some design. There's some design choices in that movie that I had to do a double take on. Like, what do you mean Ludicolo looks like this?
Oh my god, have you seen the Ludicolo plushie? Copy image address. The Ludicolo plushie looks hilarious. The Detective Pikachu one specifically. It looks like it
Oh,
came. It looks like it tried to fart and got more than it bargained for.
that's a Furby. That's just a Furby. Look at those. You got those doll's eyes. Nintendo's foray into photorealism in gaming hasn't done well in the past. No, and it because
I mean, sure, but I don't know. Just the way you're wording it makes it sound like photorealism is superior when that's not necessarily the case in art. Because like even when it comes to like learning how to draw and learning how to do art and stuff like that, if you're able to take like doing portraits and making things look real and doing like real things is actually like a lot easier. Like drawing a real cat, drawing a real person, drawing a real building is actually a lot easier than stylizing it in terms of like art and art direction and like art itself, because like I do art, right? And like I know that like sometimes it can be a little hard for me to get like the realism right, but like at the same time it's like when you have like that example and stuff like that, especially when you've done like like the classes with the naked models and all of that stuff.
Mhm.
But to take that and to turn it into an art style that's like unique, has taste, looks good, is a lot more difficult than just drawing what you see and copying what you see down on paper, right? So I don't necessarily think that photorealism makes a console better or worse. And if they're operating within those limits, that's fair, but like I don't necessarily think that means that the Nintendo Switch is inferior because of it.
Right.
Ended the debate of whether Pokemon like Pikachu have fur or not. Yeah, but so did Scarlet and Violet, because they have like more textures. You can kind of see like whether they're scales or skin or fur now, kinda.
With part of modern game development is also including motion capture. So
Yeah.
which is easier, capturing the face of the person or taking that skeleton and putting a new photo, or a new, not photorealistic, but like stylizing a new face on top of that. Taking what you already have, or putting layers on top of that. And even games that I would consider like quote unquote photorealistic games that I love for their art direction are games like the new God of War games. And even then they take,
That one still has a lot of creativity and like the
yeah,
gods and character design and all of that stuff, right?
yeah, and they take um even like the main actor, the guy who plays Kratos, Christopher Judge, he's a black man, and they still take time to, Kratos as a pre-existing character. He is he's Greek, but he has like these ashes burned onto his skin, which is why he's so pale. He's always been played by a black man, just in every game. And so they still have to take the time to adhere, the history of the character, what the character looks like. They still take time to, and it still looks very photorealistic. Like I can see Kratos as a separate person from Christopher Judge. Like I could see that person existing, so, but they still take the time to, sculpt the nose, and they sculpt the jawline, and they say, how big do we want the beard? And, there's still art direction in that. But I think that's probably the best example. But you're right. My point being, it's still super stylized. You don't have people who are 9 feet tall. You have an actor who is maybe 6'4", and then you can scale him up. The actors are still looking up to him anyway. So if you're scaling everybody up, so
Yeah, exactly. And like I'm not necessarily saying that photorealism is bad either. I feel like as a norm, it's kind of like super uncreative, because it's like seems to be what like a lot of like AAA Western games are going for, is just that. And like again, you do have like God of War and other things where they're actually creative, or maybe like Uncharted where like it's just like regular looking people, but they're super creative with their worlds, and like putting like Uncharted was like, it's like kind of like modern Indiana Jones, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so like all of those like escapes and like level design and all of that stuff is like super creative. But I don't think that like not there's a lot of people who are into like the AAA photorealism stuff are only into that, and they see like a cartoony game and they think it's for kids. And I still meet a lot of people who are like that to this day. Where it's just like, I won't get Nintendo because that's for kids. I only like, the photorealism adult games, and I just think there's like you know,
The Fire
there's just like
Emblem.
kind of like a divide on graphics based on that when it's like you shouldn't necessarily like even some games won't necessarily have like the best art. Like I've played visual novels, like Japanese visual novels that have had pretty not that great art, right?
Mhm.
But like the story was absolutely amazing and super captivating and there's just been like, even like a lot of people will say like Danganronpa's like art style is like a little undesirable, but the game is so good. It's so good. And like there's a lot that's true. Like, I never thought I'd like a game like Infamous and I fucking loved it. I loved like the story direction and I loved like
Mhm.
the characters, even though they're all just like regular looking people, right?
Yeah, it was still interesting in the world that it was building, and the powers were cool. The game, I thought the gameplay of I've only played
It was
Infamous
also
one.
nice to have electric powers not on a black person for once, because I swear every black person gets electrical powers.
Yeah,
Static Shock, Miles Morales. A couple others I can't think of the names of right now.
DC has a hero just named Black Lightning.
Yeah, there you go. See? we always get the electrical powers. I don't know why. I'm not complaining. Electrical powers are cool as heck, but
Yeah.
like
I need to find the article. Actually saw an article because I get recommended by Google. It's like, oh, you like comics? Here's like an article about comics, and there was an actual like essay about the history of African Americans and electricity, and like that whole there's like a whole discourse about why that is.
yeah.
I didn't read the article. I have it pinned
I wouldn't
somewhere.
necessarily want to bring discourse up on it. It's just a trend that I noticed that I wouldn't necessarily, it's not something worth talking about. Like, I'm not saying like it's racist to always have black people have electrical powers, right? Like, it's just like it's a cool superpower, and it's just the trend just so happens to be that a lot of black people get it. I don't necessarily know if there's a reason for that or not. Why we're always pegged with electrical powers, but like, it's still just like a white guy has them this time. Cool.
Yeah,
that's different.
That's different. Yeah. Yeah. But at the same time, that also comes down to the protagonist is just buzz cut white man.
Yep.
That.
Yeah. So they're super like plain on their own.
Yeah.
But at least they kind of like let you like assume the personality a little bit. Like I'm just like, hell yeah, I'm gonna make all the evil choices, and every time I did, I wanted to cry because I felt really bad.
Yeah.
Just like.
I think a part of that comes from like during that 360 PS3 era, they were like, oh, look at everything that it can do, and they were cutting corners on everything it couldn't do. Like water still didn't look great, hair didn't look great, so they made all of their actiony heroes buzzed cut so that when they're jumping around, they don't have to animate hair.
Yeah.
But because average Western gamer wants. We're not average gamers. Average Western gamer plays Call of Duty, FIFA. Oh my god, FIFA makes ludicrous amounts of money. Maybe even games like Fortnite on the side basis has been established since the. Yeah, and I've talked about this couple. I think the first one of these we did where like speak with your wallets on microtransactions because games like FIFA, which is just everybody with a or not everybody but majority of average gamers play tons of FIFA. It makes them millions of dollars, so they're going to keep making FIFA games because that's the one making them millions of dollars. Yeah. Call of Duty is very lucrative. So any game that is, stylized or, has a unique look to it, like I would say that a game like Unpacking, just because that's now in my brain, was brought up earlier. Unpacking, I would say, is a great mental health game. It tells a very interesting.
So is. Or Power Wash Simulator.
Power Wash Simulator.
Things you'd never be fucking interested in, but why is this so cathartic?
It's so cathartic, but like Unpacking tells a very comfy story about, a relationship, like just in the world building of every time your character has to unpack. It tells a very like cozy, intimate story that, you can experience on your own depending on like what's going on in your life, and maybe you can identify with it. Maybe it'll make you feel better. Maybe you find some catharsis in knowing that other people have been through this. I think it's just a very cozy experience, but again, looking at the pixelated art style, certain audiences...
People are just gonna skip over it.
Yes.
And it's honestly, like, it's just so bonkers to me, because, like, rather than just becoming, like, like a basic form of entertainment or something, like... As gaming has expanded, it's become more of an art form, and I'm not saying it wasn't in the past, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But like, like with the rise of like the first Call of Duties and stuff like that, that's what the direction that it was going in the first place. But as gaming has become more accessible for people to make, as gaming has become more accessible for people to buy, it's become a way of getting out your art and your storytelling. And it's just like a lot of the people who only go for the photorealism aren't necessarily appreciating art because, like, or even people who say that, oh, it's like, I really like pixel art, but I only play Call of Duty. It's like, you could play, like, I have like 1,800 games I could probably name right now that all have beautiful pixel art, but you won't play them because they're not FPS.
Right.
It's like, I don't know.
Even if
it's just like I just get very like tired of that crowd because I've dealt with I've had like like exes and like met so many people IRL who are just like, oh, your whole personality is gun games. Okay.
I had an ex. We were together for years. We only lived together for a few months. That's kind of where it fell apart. We just couldn't like cohabitate. And there were just 2 games that she played. I remember very vividly Death Stranding and GTA 5.
Oh god, yeah, GTA.
Which are interesting choice, but like she played a lot of that.
Yeah, and I'm not saying it's not good to have like passions and stuff like that, and some people just aren't gamers. The other day, I was out with my friend and we were walking to the dollar store and there was like these girls trying to sell like donations to like a help children in other country thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, oh, what do you, and like they're like, what do you guys like do as a hobby? And it's just like, oh, like I love to play video games. It's just like, I don't understand video games. Like, how do you not understand video games? You press button, thing happen. What? Like, I can't wrap my head around people not understanding video games. Just press button, thing happen. You know what I mean?
I think
like I also have like that bias in general. It's just like, how do I talk to people who don't play video games?
Whenever I hear that, it's like I don't get it. My interpretation is they don't get the appeal, and not that they don't understand press button thing happen. It's just I don't get the appeal of it. And at that point, that's when I say, well, there's some stories that are more effective. If you're watching a movie and you're emotionally affected, sometimes people find it more emotionally effective when they're in control of that character. Maybe, maybe you're watching a movie and somebody has to make a difficult choice and you're sitting there on your couch thinking, I could make that choice no problem. Okay, there's a game that will present you with that choice, and, say it's,
Edgerunners, fucking communicate.
Again, I haven't seen Edgerunners. Because I don't care. Gaming has gone down the same entertainment path as music, film. Big figureheads' minds decide to make money or make art.
Handheld and home console.
A lot of people don't have the same reverence for gaming. They just see it as a basic hobby. Yes, and that is like you see a lot of like or you hear it from like Let's Players or streamers who who make enough to do it for a living, and trying to explain to people what they do for a living. It's like, well, I play video games online and people watch me play and they give me money, or ad breaks. Trying to explain that to a boomer. It's like, that's why
heck, boomers.
That's why, like, whenever people are, like, in my personal life, my real life, ask me about this, I say it's about building a community. It's not about, I don't make money off of this. It's about building a community of like-minded people who care about the gaming space, and more than that, if we talked about in the future, we might do one of these that isn't about gaming, but just people who are interested in art, telling stories. Art preservation is a big thing that's important to me, and if these games,
that's the draw of JRPGs for me, is like the storytelling, and RPGs in general. Like, there's a lot of like Western RPGs that I want to play as well, right? It's just that like JRPGs have a heavy thing in story, and the more they can incorporate like the game mechanics and combat into the story, like Nier Automata or something like that, where there's just mechanics that are like directly linked to the story, and even things like you can remove your OS chip and you die and there's an ending.
I love that.
Like, why the fuck did you do that? That's your operating system. You know what I mean? Just like all of those like creative things that you don't get when you're copy pasting the same like you know, the same like mainstream title.
My go-to when I think JRPGs, my go-tos are like the original 3 Dragon Quest games or Dragon Warrior, depending on your region, which have very little story. Same character designer as like Dragon Ball. I can't remember his name unfortunately, but I love his art style. I think the character designs are so cute. But like
Akira Toriyama?
yes.
Yeah. Akira
Um
Toriyama.
yeah, I love his character designs. I think they're so nice. It's a shame I don't like Dragon Ball, but
They're nice, but they're also like a lot of them end up starting to like look the samey a little bit in a way.
I
He's
agree with
both
that.
good and not good at it.
Yeah, I agree when people say that a lot of the characters look samey, but I think of that or like Kingdom Hearts, which Kingdom Hearts notoriously has a convoluted plot, and the first Kingdom. Okay.
Not all JRPGs are the best thing for story, I will admit.
Oh no. Okay. Here is my plea to both sides of the Kingdom Hearts argument. People who say Kingdom Hearts is easy to understand and Kingdom Hearts is impossible to understand.
The people who are saying it's easy to understand are delusional and have also been to a musical in Japan, and that's why they understand it.
The people who understand Kingdom Hearts, like me, are the people who have been with Kingdom Hearts since the beginning. We have been given one piece at a time that we can just slowly slot together, like Kingdom Hearts 1, Kingdom Hearts 2. Oh, Chain of Memories goes in the middle. We're slowly able to flesh this out. People who don't get Kingdom Hearts are just given this laundry list of games, and it's like, how are there 8 games and only 2 of them are Kingdom Hearts 1 and Kingdom Hearts 2? Do all of these come before? Do all these come after? So, I understand...
We have people like me who fell off because I couldn't afford to keep up with all of the different games, so I got lost, like, partway through.
Yeah, and it doesn't help that they were on, like, tons of different consoles. Like, there was a Vita...
mobile game that's no longer up to...
Oh my god. Okay, Cross? Kingdom Hearts... Crossing?
Unchained.
Oh Unchained. And it went through, like, 4 names. Hate Toriyama's character design. I think they're so ugly. I didn't know his art direction for Dragon Quest either until I played 11. He does good monster design. Hate his humans. They came out of
He draws the same face. That's the unfortunate thing. He's a great artist, but he draws the same face.
Yeah.
He draws like if you look at Goten looks like Goku from Dragon Ball. Right? There's no difference. The only difference between Gohan and Goku from Dragon Ball and Goten is his hair.
Yeah.
The aliens end up looking different because they're aliens, so you can do something different, but Piccolo also just looks like Goku, but green. Like, you know what I mean? And, like, he's a great artist, great storyteller. All of those episodes of charging and shit-talking aside, that's why I just watched the abridged series, because it's a lot easier.
The abridged series is funny.
Oh, yeah.
I like the abridged.
No!
Okay. What was happening?
Oh, you're talking about Kingdom Hearts.
Yes. So my plea is to just let it go. Either you like Kingdom Hearts or you don't. Don't try and get other people onto Kingdom Hearts if they say they don't wanna. And if you really want to get into Kingdom Hearts, play them in order of release. Don't listen to people online who are like, it's better if you play this one first. Take a little bit of breaks.
Yeah, don't play Birth by Sleep first. Birth by Sleep assumes you've played at least 3 of the games already. You know what I mean? Ventus being Ventus doesn't really necessarily matter. If you don't know who Roxas is.
Exactly. Like if you don't look at this child and say this looks like another child, or you know if you don't know the name Xehanort.
Keyblade.
Yeah. Oh man, I feel bad because like every actor who's played Xehanort has died.
Oh my god.
At least in the dub.
Including like Child Xehanort from DDD.
Hang on.
Like the young Xehanort that was in Dream
Oh, sorry, no, I meant like old Xehanort, bald Xehanort, like because originally he was played by Leonard Nimoy, who passed away, and then he was played by not Lance Reddick.
Is Xehanort just Voldemort?
No. Wait,
Xehanort is just Kingdom Hearts' Voldemort.
wait,
Am I wrong?
wait.
I'm not wrong.
And
I'm sorry I did this to you.
And all of the Xehanorts are his fucking Deathly Hallows or whatever.
Horcruxes or whatever the fuck it
Horcruxes,
is.
yeah.
And he keeps, like, showing up in a different form or in a different body or taking over people's bodies. Like, he took over the one professor in the first one, in the Philosopher's Stone, and then he unwrapped his head and Voldemort was on the back.
Yeah, Coral, yeah.
He's just Voldemort! Oh no!
He's anime Voldemort.
He's anime Voldemort! Oh my god. We've made a discovery today.
Oh, I'm tired. Oh, what have you done? Oh, I feel so tired all of a sudden. Oh no. I don't even remember what I was talking about. Kingdom Hearts. I like Kingdom Hearts. Okay,
I came to this realization. And the more I thought about it, the more it was true, and I wanted to get your opinion on it, and now I've just ruined everybody's life.
So tired. I'm so okay, Kingdom Hearts good. I will play that on stream eventually.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, Kingdom Hearts is simultaneously, like, I agree that each individual game is overcomplicated because, like, first Kingdom Hearts game, none of the Disney worlds really matter. You go through the Disney worlds, and it's just kind of a fun, like, oh, look at this unique thing of, like, you're playing...
Oh, yeah, it's Tarzan.
I'm breaking out the alcohol. Exactly.
I might do that after this. I need it. And I still have tomorrow off.
Hell yeah.
I ruined everybody's life. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. We will live.
Kingdom Hearts is fun, lighthearted, has a deep story, and really good combat if you love hack and slash and stuff like that, especially customizable hack and slash. I would say Kingdom Hearts, along with like Nier Automata, are very, very good standards of that. And hack and slash stays away from like Souls-like, which kind of slows down combat a little bit in favor of reading enemy moves and dodging them and counter-attacking, right? This is more just like hack, hack, hack. Okay, I got a dodge. I got a perfect dodge. Now I can counterattack. Hack, hack, hack. Oh shit, like they kind of comboed me too. Whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That sort of fast-paced stuff. Really great. I almost said gameplay. Oops. Really great gameplay. It does have really good storytelling. It's just the fact that it does convolute itself as it became a bigger and bigger series, because it became, you know, they became all of these little branches that they didn't retcon until Remind, apparently.
Have not played Remind.
Yeah, like Kingdom Hearts 2 is better for combat. Kingdom Hearts 1 is better for story. It's a fun crossover.
I would say the Kingdom Hearts 2 even has a better story than 1. I would say 1 is fueled by nostalgia.
I played 1. I hear beeping. What the fuck? Okay. Oh no, that's my roommate using the fucking stove. Sorry, I was just like, is that the fucking fire alarm? Anyway, hi. Like, I played 2 after I played 1, right? And, like, it didn't help that, like, I didn't really have comm until later. But, like, there was a lot of heartfelt stuff in both games, but I just feel like the simplicity of I'm with my friends. I'm playing with my friends. I get thrown into like this extravagant plot. I get to go on like all of these fun adventures, and at the end of the day, I just want to bring my friends home. I feel like that hit very hard for me, especially considering like I was in foster care and stuff. But aside that, it was like I just want to go home with my friends, and I want everyone to be safe. And I feel like that the simplicity there, just like, you know, was told very, very well. And like Kingdom Hearts 2 starts getting into a lot of more of like the little complicated plots and the underlying darkness and all of like the intricacies there. So I feel like especially for an introduction to Kingdom Hearts 1 is very perfect because it goes into like some of the deepness of it without getting way too complicated. Right?
Yeah, no,
So, like, people who, like, say they want to start at Calm, they want to start at this, they want to start at that, or their first Kingdom Hearts was this, I do feel like 1 is a very, very good introduction to the series.
yes, I would.
In terms of story.
I would also say start with 1. However, I would also make the promise it gets better.
Yeah.
Yeah, one I think is just a perfect encapsulation because it also does like the shonen, the shonen archetype of like male protagonist best friend, like the trio of like male protagonist, like happy-go-lucky kid, male best friend who is evil, but I can fix him. I can fix Sasuke.
Yeah, it's literally just Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura. By the way, Sakura's better than Kairi. Kairi stays useless. Apparently she gets a Keyblade, that's the only spoiler that I know. Yeah. From like 3 or something. Apparently she gets a Keyblade, but apparently she doesn't do anything with it. Kairi's worse than Sakura. Sakura was awful.
Do you mind a little bit more on Kairi with the Keyblade? A little bit more on that, or do you not want anything?
Well, I know that like Axel and all of them got Keyblades in DDD. So how much of the actual story does it spoil? Because I know even the fucking Rhythm game is like Kairi telling the story, and that has spoilers for a lot of stuff.
Oh, interesting. I've not played Melody of Memory. I was actually just looking earlier to see if Melody of Memory
Kingdom Hearts
used Denuvo.
Even though Kairi's not mommy.
But it literally has nothing to do with the story of 3, which is why it's so funny to me.
Oh, okay, yeah, sure, go for it.
Every now and then, they'll literally just cut to a different scene where they say, wow, Kairi, you're doing great with your Keyblade training, and they never show it. It has nothing to do with what's going on. They just want you to believe. It's like, oh, don't worry about it, she definitely is training. But it literally has nothing to do with what's actually happening. Every now and then, they'll just remind you, she exists. That's it.
Huh. Yeah, remember how Kairi was like, how we were just trying to save my friend Kairi and bring her home? She stops mattering partway through 2.
It's incredible how,
by the way.
It's incredible how Naminé is a much more impactful and like important character, and she only appears in like the first.
And I think that's why I kind of like it. I think that's why I do like 1 more than like 2 and beyond. Although I do love, well, I would have loved 358 more if they didn't add Shion, because it was the yaoi couple of my dreams, and they got their own game together, and then they added a anyway.
Why are you here? It's literally to keep that shonen trio pairing of the two best friends, two male best friends, one kind of
sharing ice cream, sucking their popsicles. Nope. Like, come on. Wait.
You need to have.
I didn't mean that.
Oh no! What a.
Okay. Anyways, going back into Kingdom Hearts 1, I think it was just like the simplicity of that trio and the simplicity of that friendship. Mm-hmm. And then when they get into Calm, you know, it's kind of like, oh yeah, this is like more of a, like, you know, there's like more to it than this, you know, because there's still like a continuation. We managed to bring Kairi home, but you know, we have to go get Riku and stuff like that, right? Which I think is good, and it's a precursor, and it gives you access to more that could happen. So then you have like the White Castle thing, you know, Donald and Goofy go to White Castle. I think they did a movie on that. Sorry, that was Harold and Kumar. And then when you add these complicated intricacies, like, it still has like a lot of like heartfelt feelings, especially with the individual worlds and the stories from those, but I feel like it starts to lose the plot of that like shonen trio and starts to get into like this complicated never-ending fight against the Heartless and the never-ending fight against Xehanort, and then like you start to, even though you fight for your friends are now Donald and Goofy. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Your friend,
and it just kind of feels like it diminishes, like, you know, that very simple, overused yet heartfelt story. The more they added to it, and I'm not saying that the Kingdom Hearts story is bad necessarily, but I feel like they ended up, like, they lost the plot, and like there's like very little continuity between the first game just being the springboard into all of the other shit that's going on in the worlds, right? Yeah,
if you play 1 and then say, that was cool, I want to play the prequel now, if you go from 1 to, like, Birth by Sleep, completely different games.
Yeah, you still need to know who Roxas is, so you need to play 2 first.
But I would argue that before 2, you should probably play Calm first.
Well, yes, but you can play 2 and then go back to Calm. It's doable, but it is a little better to play Calm. It's just that at the time, Calm was a Game Boy Advance game.
Mm-hmm.
So people didn't necessarily play that before they played 2.
Yeah.
So you missed out who Zexy and Marlu and Larxene, the most forgettable female in any universe, Larxene. Even though she could have been cool.
She could
She
have
could
been
have been
cool.
cool, but she just kind of like
There's a lot of
stopped
character.
existing there.
There's a lot of Organization 13 members from Com that could have been cool. Like
Yeah.
I think Lexius could have been cool, but
Oh yeah, yeah. I forgot. See, I forgot about him.
yeah. Do you remember Zexion, the guy with the book?
Yes, I do remember Zexion because
Okay,
of fanfiction.
moving on.
Very popular in fanfiction.
Uh, hey, let's talk about some monopolies.
Hell yeah, let's get back to this.
Yeah. So that whole diatribe aside, I did want to talk a little bit about monopolies in the gaming space, and I might still use Unity, to be honest with you. I just am more cautious with projects. Yeah. Um, it's like if you're using it just as a hobbyist right now, I think you're safe. Even going into
Yeah.
2024 with like the new version with the stuff they put out, you're in that 90% that is safe from these. Excuse me, that 90% that's safe from these charges. I think you're fine.
Yeah.
Even just to learn the system.
Yeah.
Um,
If you do want to make something marketable, there is like, the other ones that you could start learning as well. But again, like the thing about hobbyists is that those are the people that they were using for that misleading 90% number. And the thing is that like all game studios want to be successful if they can. Some people are hobbyists, but if they can release something and make good money or get their story or get their art out there, why wouldn't they, right? And then just being deterred from even releasing it because you're just like a singular person
mhm.
and you don't want to like have to pay all of this money based on that like bullshit. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because
it
then
could.
that hinders indie studios from growing, even if they do have a successful release. They can't really grow their team much more because they have to pay off Unity first.
Imagine having to go bankrupt, like having to file with the bank for bankruptcy because you released your art.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, it's a scary thought.
yeah, no, it's awful and I hate it. But speaking of other things that I hate, monopolies. And this kind of does tie into like Unity and Unreal have a pseudo monopoly in the industry. They're still competitive with each other, which is really the only thing that the only thread
Yeah, I
they're
was
hanging on
hoping you'd
by.
bring this up.
But I did some research into global law, and global being what various countries and regions, um, uh, laws that are in place through various regions, and a lot of it is, anti-monopoly, antitrust laws being that being successful isn't illegal, but being unfair in a competitive space, having unfair practices like charging up prices because you're the lead in the industry, like what Unity is doing with charging. They are in an unfair position in their market to push this new charge.
Because the
And
majority of people rely on them.
exactly, and Unreal is also very popular. Unreal is still an option of a game engine. However, given Unity's position, they are in an unfair lead majority position to where other smaller engines, other smaller studios might feel the need to also implement these changes. And if one company can influence a market like that, that is considered monopolistic and part of the unfair, that is covered in antitrust, which was something
Yeah,
else that Unity might have been got for. But
even without feeling the need, it opens the gateway for other companies to get away with doing the same, which is already a scary precedent to set.
mhm. But with a more, I guess, more to the forefront of people's minds, I think when people talk about monopolies, Microsoft's current stake. We talked a little bit about like there was King, and then Activision bought King, and then Microsoft bought Activision. For I think that they bought ZeniMax for like $7 billion or something.
ZeniMax?
Their game studio that made like Elder Scrolls Online.
Oh,
Um,
oh
yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah.
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 Again,
Don't
these
they own
studio,
Bethesda?
yeah. That's the ZeniMax. I think owns. I know they're in
Oh,
tandem.
Bethesda is a subsidiary of ZeniMax.
Okay.
I thought it was the other way around. My bad.
Microsoft has become a monopoly in the industry, that's for sure. Yeah, so I did some digging into, legally speaking, what is Xbox doing? And in terms of consoles, they're technically not a monopoly. There's still fair competition in the space with Nintendo and Sony. Sony is also making these big acquisitions, like with Bungie. Obviously, the parent regions, or like the regions of that these companies are in, they need to, like the governments need to okay these acquisitions. Like, the I don't think it's the I don't think it's the FCC here. Fair Trade Commission. That's it. The FTC here in America. They have to. They're in 1950 something. Hang on. When did the Fair Trade Commission Act? FTC Act. The Fair Trade Commission Act was enacted by President Woodrow Wilson in 1914. So the tech industries did not exist at the time. That's kind of what I'm trying to get to. So here in America, kind of where some tech, like these tech laws kind of started, there was the Sherman Act, which was basically saying monopolies are bad. You can't have monopoly because fair trade. However, that act didn't define anything. It didn't say what a liquid asset was. It didn't define what a monopoly was, so it was left open to massive interpretation. So we got the Clarence Act. Hang on. Sherman Act.
Be strong, Clarence. Be strong for mother.
Sherman antitrust. What was the referendum? What came after the Sherman Act? Clayton Act, the Clayton Antitrust Act, where they basically defined a little bit better. And this is also around the same time that the FTC Act came in. So they more clearly defined what monopolies were, like monopolistic behavior, such as unfair positions of power in a single industry, unfair practices. Bless you, I saw that. But no, it's fine. But the Clayton Act kind of fleshed out what these were and what was meant by that, and then the FTC Act put an actual commission in place to oversee this. So it wasn't just a nebulous government thing that judges would hear. A specific panel was put in place to oversee all these acquisitions, these trades, these mergers, these buyouts. But tech industries did not exist. That was not, you had, in 1914, you had maybe General Electric,
oil.
Like, yeah. Well, the Sherman Act actually is what destroyed the oil monopoly in America. It was specifically created to destroy the Rockefeller oil monopoly in America, which I found interesting, but I'm weird like that.
No, it is interesting.
But I looked into other countries and kind of their responses. Canada doesn't have a great track record with monopolies. Like 90% of telecommunications are owned by 2 companies.
It was 3. I don't know if the Shaw buyout happened, as well as we currently have a grocery monopoly, which is Loblaws. Which basically means they can charge you $40 for 4 chicken breasts and nobody can do anything about it. So unfortunately, in terms of monopolies, it's awful. And so, something that's been a thing since I was a kid is that Russia, their subway tunnels are a lot deeper down than the ones in Toronto. You know what they're just introducing into the subways now because some of the liberal federals are actually kind of getting on their ass about it? Internet service in the subway tunnels. 30 years I've been on this planet, and we're just getting that this year. And it's only in specific ones, and I'm in the East End, and everyone just says fuck the East End, like fuck the East End, right? So it's going west before it's going east. So majority of my subway rides, I still just have no service, and Rogers is being extremely slow, but I could go on and on. The worst
city...
one is like the grocery monopoly. Even our new Democratic Party, which is, so we have three, I'll just do this briefly. We have the Progressive Conservatives, which is Republicans essentially. We have the Liberal Party, which is Democrats essentially. And then we have the NDP, New Democrat Party, which is like very much like more socialist and for the people and about equity and equality and all of that sort of thing. So we have our three major parties, although NDP is somewhat minor compared to the other two. The NDP party and the Liberal Party, I don't think Trudeau hasn't yet like spoken to them or anything like that, but the leader of the NDP party once put out on Twitter, "Oh, I'm about to go into a meeting about like the whole grocery monopoly thing," and then everybody went on Twitter was at JagMeetSin. So what happened? So what happened? So what happened? So what happened? And we just heard nothing about it, and it's just like, this one guy just keeps hiking grocery prices, and these are people who are starving, and this is where I go into the thing about, like, billionaires are just so out of touch with reality that they don't care if people die.
Yeah, like, if you... Because food, you need food. Like, video games are a luxury. Food is a necessity. That is ridiculous. That is
and like telecoms and stuff like that as well. Like a phone is like half necessity, I would say. Like phone, internet, and all that stuff like that. Like you can survive without it. You can survive off the land and stuff like that. You cannot survive without putting food into your body.
Yeah.
You can live out in the woods and you can survive without electricity, or even like, you know, like Amish communities and stuff like that. They have either no electricity or very basic electricity, which is like heating and lighting, and that's it, right?
Yeah.
You got dirt and bugs, don't you? Yeah, no, that's what they would say. It's ridiculous, but yeah. Sorry, I had more to put on the Canadian monopoly thing.
And that's why I brought them up so quickly, as I wanted your input.
Yeah, it kind of sucks over here. We don't have unlimited data plans at all. They just don't exist.
That blows.
You can get like 10, you can pay for 10 gigs, you can pay for 15 gigs, you can pay for 20 gigs, you cannot get unlimited. And with it, if you can get unlimited, it is from very specific, tiny little companies. And because those companies are renting the space off the radio towers that are put up by Rogers, Bell, Telus, Shaw, whatever. Let's say it's like, you know, it's Pokemon Go Summer and you're with one of these companies that isn't a major company, or you're with a company that isn't owned by a major company. It's just like one of these indie companies that is renting the space. Everybody's scrambling for a Dragonair because it's like day 3. So because there's a lot of service going off of these towers in that area all at once, the people who are not with these major companies are going to get shafted, and their connection is going to be extremely slow. So I had to tether my one friend who was with a specific one of these like third-party companies, let's say, a lot of the time when we were downtown, because I'm with a company that's owned by Rogers, so we get more priority off of their towers and stuff like that. So it's just it's like a thing that happens, and like they constantly raise the price of wholesale internet and stuff like that, because I'm with a third-party internet company, we'll say. They constantly raise like the wholesale prices so that these companies are forced to raise their prices, and even though like the company I'm with actually has all of these blogs and speaks out against these monopolies and stuff like that, so they basically crush the competition. Also, fuck Rogers, it's the Sky Dome, it will always be the Sky Dome. Fuck your face. I'm done.
Alright. I'm glad you were able to let off some steam there. In the United Kingdom and Europe, they do have better laws on monopolies. However, there's also a difference.
Maybe not as much now.
There's a weird difference, because in the UK some stuff is also more socialized. So like in America, you could like some of these laws are in place because hospitals and prisons are privatized. And so having a monopoly on hospitals and medicine, that's where you get things like insulin being like
Oh, God.
Insulin being very cheap to make and being sold at $100 is fucking ludicrous. However, they're able to get away with it because, again, these antitrust laws are not against the market leader. Being successful is not illegal, is kind of how it's been interpreted. However, these aren't considered unfair business practices because they are still considered competitive in the market with other smaller companies who also manage to have insulin. Even though it's basically a cornered market, there are still smaller companies regionally who sell insulin for a little bit cheaper.
Yeah, and so here I could go into a difference about Canada, where Canada forces companies to have reasonable prices for these things and stuff like that, and that's one of the reasons why during COVID we were struggling so much, because one of our conservative leaders, Stephen Harper, yeah, no, he was bad. He ended up shutting down some of our vaccine making facilities because a lot of companies didn't want to come here and do that because they could get away with a lot more like bullshit and make a lot more money making them in the States. So, and like Canada usually tries to be good about companies that come in from other places and tries to be like, all right, but since you're using local resources and all of this stuff, you know, it has to be decently priced for us, or it has to be reasonably priced for us, or you do have to use like some local resources and help the Canadian economy. You can't just move in here and shaft us, even though they allowed that to happen with the oil sands in Alberta. So, asides that, yeah, so that's why we ended up having no vaccine creation facilities here, even though we actually used to a long time ago when I was a child. And so that kind of screwed us over for the pandemic. But at the same time, like, we were just trying to like have reasonable Canadian stuff for the Canadian economy, and these companies are just like, fuck it, never mind. Because the States lets them get away with a lot more in terms of like the pharmaceutical industry, right?
Right. But I'm sorry. In the tech side of everything, Europe. I'm trying to get back on my train of thought. Europe and
sorry.
No, it's perfectly fine. These are issues. Europe and the UK do have some things in place when it comes to tech monopolies, but again, like they're like in the United Kingdom, television is kind of socialized. Like there's a service fee that you have to pay as part of your lump taxes for basic TV.
I remember hearing about that like a lot of people were complaining that they're paying for television that they never use because they don't have fucking cable because they have the internet, but like the BBC is making like the BBC will actually send people to your house to collect these fees if you're not paying them, despite not having access to BBC stuff outside of like internet browsing.
Yup. It's the UK is just really weird in trying to look up tech monopolies and stuff, because sometimes the tech monopoly is the government itself. But in the European Union, they're pretty good with it. I mentioned to you a little bit off stream, but Japan's whole infrastructure is based on America's. In post-war Japan, America was worried about the rise in communist activity just because Japan is surrounded by or adjacent to communist countries. So they basically told Japan to dismantle their current form of how they do business, their current form of economy. And as part of the new implementation for Japanese economy, they basically gave them the old Sherman Act. This, again, 1914 is when the Clarence Act came up, or Clayton Act came up, and the FTC Act came up. So they had already reformed their stuff. They didn't give Japan the reformed version. They gave them the original version and said, figure it out.
You think that's part of, like, the United States also trying to keep every other country beneath them or under their control?
100%. America swooped in at the last second of World War II and said, we'll help, and
they won't help, don't trust.
Well, I mean, I think the second wind to the Western Front did help. You know, you can statistically look and see that America did contribute
positively
they did
a
to
lot
World War
back
II.
then. But
But
as
then,
it continued as a world power, they became more controlling, not helping.
yeah, this is a completely different topic altogether, but then there's the rebuild stage where America was like, oh, all of you countries are indebted to us. We'll help you rebuild because we still have resources, because we weren't at war for, you know, we were at war maybe a third as long as everybody else was. Everybody else is out of resources. Their major cities have been, laid to waste. Like, it was horrific. But America came in and said, we still have resources. We'll be happy to help you rebuild for a cost. That's a whole other thing. But
Yep.
in part of that rebuild, America was like, here's some of the things that help us survive as an economy. And so they gave Japan the old Sherman Act. They called it something else. Again, this was under President. This would have been post World War II, so Truman, I guess. The president.
I don't know my U.S. presidents at all.
It's
I can't even
okay.
name the president from. I can't even name the prime minister from World War II right now. Now that I think about it, it's been at least 15 years since I've had to think about it.
Yeah, no, it's okay. I can barely name any Canadian prime ministers, so it's fine. They don't teach you anything about your neighboring countries in the US school system. I honestly, until recently,
Oh, Mackenzie. Okay, I know who he is.
I honestly didn't know until this year that the Northern Territory of Canada was its own named region. I thought everything
The
past
Northwest Territories?
I thought everything past the line of habitable provinces. You have BC, you have
Oh, there's people
Quebec,
up there.
Alberta. Well, I know, but like I thought everything past that was just the Yukon.
Oh, no. It
And
used to
then
be, so it used to be like Yukon was in the corner and the Northwest Territories was the rest of it, but in 1999 they decided Northwest Territories was still a little bit too big, so they split it into Northwest Territories and none of it.
yeah, I didn't know none of it existed until this year.
So, I remember the maps before none of it existed because I was alive. Very vaguely, but like it was just like a big plot of land, and it was just the Northwest Territories, and they were in the northwest of Canada because there's
Yeah.
nothing really north of Labrador, so it's just all that Baffin Island, the Arctic, yada yada.
Isn't Labrador in the northeast?
Labrador is, I would say it's southeast. It's just that like it's in the Maritimes, so it kind of sticks out like this, and there isn't really land that's above it unless it's Greenland. You have to go a little more
Oh,
west.
okay. Yeah. Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because Labrador is like the island sticking off the very east of
That's like
Canada. I
that's
almost
like
said Japan.
that's like Nova Scotia and that region, right?
Yeah, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, PEI, Newfoundland, and Labrador. You can just call it Newfoundland altogether, but the island is called Labrador Island, and that's
Okay.
where the Newfoundlander dogs are from.
Yeah.
I love them. The Newfie
yeah.
dogs.
Those are big, beautiful dogs. But yeah. So Japan had to figure out their own thing, and they eventually came up with the JFTC Act, the Japanese Federal Trade Commission Act, which I can only assume was still influenced by American powers. But they kind of have a similar infrastructure in place for monopolies, which, that's considering that a lot of the gaming industry is based out of Japan, with Nintendo and Sony being two of the biggest contributors. That's,
Yeah.
Great to know.
The other thing about the gaming industry there, though, is that I think to this day, the gaming industry is this is like very interesting stuff. The gaming industry there is still considered part of Japan's pink industry. And you know what else is included in the pink industry? Porn.
Oh,
So that it's still labeled under a specific like thing. Like even Nintendo had love hotels and other things. Like they weren't always family friendly, which I had actually learned recently. I had thought that they were. But it is said that they are one of the few, if not one of the only game companies that, despite having like, some sort of like more adult stuff, that have stayed Yakuza free. And I don't mean the video game. I mean like the Yakuza helps out the game industry a lot, especially being under the pink industry. To the point where if a rival game company is going to release a game that kind of rivals or might outsell another company, they'll kidnap one of the dev sisters and blackmail them and all of this stuff, and there's stories
Yeah.
about this all over Japan.
I
So the state of gaming there is in a little bit of a wonkier position than it is here. Here we have a lot of like copy paste. There they have a lot of underground influence.
I think I brought it up because I know I've mentioned before that I read that book on Fumito Ueda and his work in the games industry. And an interesting thing, the thing that still sticks out to me about that book, is an excerpt from an interview with Hideo Kojima, and that in Japan, video games are not considered part of the arts, but are considered a service. There can be art within that, but you're just making a product for people to buy. It is a luxury. It is a service that you're providing for people. So I can see how, statistically, or if you're lumping businesses into groups, I can see the service kind of. If it's considered a service, I can see how that is still lumped in with.
Yeah. And like a lot of things like visual novels, like the 18+ eroge, which are very popular over there and are gaining popularity pretty fast over here. And I'm not talking about like the ones that have like a sweet story and maybe 1 or 2 H scenes per dateable girl. I mean like the ones that are just like full-blown meant for porn is also included in video gaming. So sometimes it is a little better to consider it like a service than an art, because then people might just end up like liking it to just the hentai shit that they see over there as well. Because there's a lot of that.
I wanted to bring up monopolies specifically because there's one monopoly that it baffles me that nobody talks about it, at least in the mainstream a whole lot, but it's a company called Embracer Group.
Oh yeah, I think you mentioned this before.
Yeah, they were formerly known as Nordic Games, and up until 19 were known as THQ Nordic, which people might recognize. It not original THQ. When THQ went under, they bought all of the remaining. Embracer Group bought all of the remaining stuff and rebranded themselves as THQ Nordic. It's specifically Nordic is important because they were originally Nordic Games, and then they wanted to present the sort of like, oh, we've joined with THQ to keep their brand alive, but THQ was dead. THQ Nordic is a completely different company. And then in 2019, they rebranded to Embracer Group. And outside of just games, they own Dark Horse Comics.
Oh.
They own Deca Games, which is, I believe, the largest or the second largest gaming company in Germany, and make tons of like free-to-play games. Embracer Group, it is worth mentioning, they're based out of, I think, Stockholm, Sweden. All of their equity and revenue is based.
Gearbox.
Yeah, that's actually something very recently. They were going
Square Enix Montreal.
Yeah, no, it's insane how much they own, and people don't realize they own.
Run Games, Coffee Stain Studios.
But the reason that I brought this up is because recently they were in the news because they wanted to do a $2 billion acquisition deal that fell through. So part of trying to get some of that money back that they spent in trying to get the acquisition that they didn't get, they are selling Gearbox. Gearbox is currently up for sale from Embracer Group. But they also own, there's another one. Asmodee, which is one of the biggest French publisher of board games. I'm a big board game buff. I love board games, tabletops, card games. I love all that stuff. So,
oh yeah.
And I think every country makes great games, so that kind of stuck out to me. Coffee Stain. They own Middle Earth Enterprises, which I think
is that Lord of the Rings?
Yeah, I think it's Subdivision owns the worldwide exclusive rights to certain elements of Tolkien's 2 most famous literary works, The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. So they don't the Tolkien estate still owns the rights to like the original books, but there are certain aspects to the Middle Earth Enterprises, formerly known as Tolkien Enterprises, is a subdivision of the Embracer Free Mode division of Embracer Group. So they have companies within companies. They produced the. Do you remember? Oh man, back in the 70s, there were animated Lord of the Rings movies. They weren't awesome.
No. No, I do
Yeah,
not.
no, they're not great. But they owned those. Like they, outside of gaming, they're a huge like tech enterprise, and companies like this are are I think the real thing to be scared of. Not just, oh, Microsoft is buying up all these things. Companies that don't really get a lot of headlines, like Embracer Group, at least a lot of public headlines.
The conglomerates that nobody realizes is conglomerates. Kind of like the whole Bud Light debacle, like not even getting into like the whole trans thing. It's just like the other beers that these people were buying were owned by the same company that chose the representative for Bud Light.
Mm-hmm.
So regardless of what beer they were buying, first of all, they were still purchasing these beers to shoot, which the company was still making money, so it didn't matter. And then on top of that, the other beer that they were buying to actually drink was still owned by the same company, so the same company was still making, like, the money off of them anyway. So, like, that whole, protest there really didn't work out, did it?
Yeah. But yeah, all I really wanted to say with this is do your due diligence. You know, if you're looking at monopolies, if you're worried about companies getting too big, there's always a bigger fish. There's always gonna be these companies that, and again, on the end user part of things, on the consumer side of things, there's not a whole lot we can do. Write to your local whoever is in charge of these things legally. You know, if monopolies,
it's a very scary situation.
Because these companies are so big, they make, I think Embracer Group makes, let me scroll back up here, 38 billion kroner as of this year, just in 2023, and we're just over halfway through the year.
Wow.
I don't know how many kroner that is.
Wait, 3 No, you said you said 38.
Oh yeah, sorry, 38 billion kroner. I don't know how much that is. But yeah, no, I just wanted to make people a little bit more aware of, it's not just Xbox right now. Xbox is a problem because monopolies like this, like buyouts like this, do not help consumers, because if one company is making all of the games, there's no drive for competition. They're just going to keep making the same thing because that's the only thing on the market.
That's 4 billion Canadian dollars. 4,763 Canadian dollars.
That's more than I make in a year.
That's more than any of us make in a year.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I didn't have like a whole lot to talk about. I just wanted to bring this to people's attention that, like, hey, these are a thing. Like, Embracer Group exists. Watch out.
Microsoft isn't necessarily the scariest.
Yeah, just watch out for these. Do you have any closing thoughts on this? We're hitting that 3-hour mark. I think that's a good place to.
Well, I mean, I guess so. Going into Denuvo, I guess it's just more empathy and awareness for the situation in gaming in terms of the devs. Yeah, don't blame the devs, blame the CEOs, and blame Denuvo for having like a shitty, like, make it better, make it work, and then market it. Like, Christ.
I think that's the theme of all of this: Denuvo, Unity, and monopolies. Blame the CEOs.
Blame, the CEOs, the financial people, and probably the shareholders.
Yeah, no, they're like.
Just think about, like, who actually cares the most about the money, who makes the most money, whose best interest is it to risk sabotaging these games to protect your funds? And most of the time, it's not going to be the developers. Right? The developers want to get paid for their work, and that's anybody. But that doesn't mean that every human being on the street, despite, having a bit more of a Thomas Hobbes outlook on life, that doesn't necessarily mean that every person on the street wants to just hoard everything that they can. Never mind my collection of Mikus. But for all of it, it's just like, think about who gains to benefit and who would be the most out of touch in reality in that sense. Like, the people who spent all of this time making the game work aren't necessarily going to want their game to break because of a DRM, right?
Yeah, no, like,
Why would they want all that hard work to go to waste?
yeah, they spend years on these things, and then somebody who is in a different position, who had nothing to do with development, says, "Hey, we need to protect our IP. Slap this in there." That at least, but again, I'm coming from the outside perspective. Like, I've never worked on a game. I don't know fully what goes into it, but that's just how it appears to me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but
I mean, like, considering the situation with Lies of P, that 4 days before release, they were able to just plug it in there.
Yeah.
It seems pretty safe to say that that's accurate, right?
Yeah.
Whether they plan to have it and include it, like, sooner than later, or whether they just slap it in at the end, I feel like it's more just, like... Because isn't it, like, the computer is running Denuvo at the same time as it's running, or, like, the console, or whatever it is running Denuvo at the same time that it's running the game itself, right?
I think it's kind of like running the game through Denuvo. Again, I don't know the exact the specifics of it, but it's definitely putting ankle weights on the game. And as much as Denuvo would like to deny it,
not everyone can be Rock Lee.
it is a known issue that they're just going to keep it. Everybody's going to keep passing the buck and saying, you know, it's like, oh, it's Denuvo's fault the game runs bad. And Denuvo says, we have done nothing wrong, which we know is a lie. You just need to upgrade your PC so it runs better. But
I even have an article here that is, Denuvo wants to convince you its DRM isn't evil.
You can drop that for...
If anybody wants to read that.
Yeah, you should drop that for anybody who wants to read that. And if anybody would like to continue this conversation, once again, there is a Discord. I'm sorry, do you have anything else to say on Unity?
Unity, it ended up being the same thing. We're looking at the wrong person, most likely. You know, it could be a combination of all of those people. We don't necessarily know what happens in the boardroom behind closed doors, but it might not have been John. Everyone's blaming John, because he already has a history of attempting to do fucked up shit with fucked up charges, but
yeah,
there's almost always bigger fish to fry.
Let's not get it, you know, misconstrued. He is not without blame. I just think the blame needs to be shared.
Yeah, shared or shifted, or maybe it's just like,
yeah,
is this he or that, or like, yeah, I'm still of the opinion that he might have been like not for it. He's just like, okay, I've done shitty shit in the past, but I think this is shittier than anything I could come up with. I'm out, so I'm just gonna slowly share my shares until I can get away from this dumpster fire. You know what I mean? But, you know, he could still be partially to blame. It's like, you know, you gotta figure out, like, who has a passion for the stuff and who's just a money grubber. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And monopolies are not people. They do not care at all about us or the state of gaming, and they will just buy and acquire and then sell and ruin and break up and all of this stuff depending on monetary value. So whether something like, you know, for example, Microsoft wanting to buy things is disrespectful or not, in the terms of a company, if it is a single human being entity that's working on it, sure, they may be capable of empathy, even though most billionaires have never heard that word before in their life. Companies are not human entities, and companies, within corporate charters, they always have to follow their corporate charters, and those corporate charters are usually outlined to make money. We could get into corporate charters another time, because I have a lot to say about Google, but essentially, the company laws is kind of like with a small company, and they have to follow those laws, and one of those laws is to help the company grow and profit and prosper. So, it's not necessarily about respect or disrespect, it's just following the set of guidelines that they set up for themselves.
Yeah, but that...
Run by humans, but it's not human.
We could get into all of the mistakes. That's for another day. I need to use the bathroom because I've had so much to drink. I had coffee, I had a Mountain Dew, I had been sipping on water. I have only fluids here by me. Follow Mew on places. Mew streams, and
I do sometimes.
Yeah, she streams. Follow her on Twitter for memes. Follow her. Find her Ko-fi. Commission her for some stuff. She does great art.
Do I have to shout myself out? I'm not shouting myself out. You show. Don't do it. Don't do it. You can literally just click on my name on the title there. Just click that and it'll go to my page. I appreciate you. I appreciate it if you do. I play a random assortment of music and I draw lines and stuff. And that's what I do.
And if you're watching the VOD, I will definitely link her stuff in the description. By the way, I have been doing that for all of these. I have just been linking your stuff.
Oh, okay. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. Of course. This is
You don't have to. I'm not doing this for advertisement. I'm just doing this because it's cool.
but mutual exposure. I want mutuals to yeah.
Oh yeah, mutual. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Look, just cause you're sitting at triple-digit followers, all right. I'd like to think of myself.
I've been doing this for like 2 years.
I've been doing
a pretty decent start.
I've been doing this for like a year now. I'm getting there.
Oh what? Oh okay.
Yeah, no,
You started like a couple months before I met you.
No, I've been doing this since September of last year. So
I see.
Yeah, I should probably have done like a 1-year anniversary thing. Come to think of it, but you know, it is what it is. I'm not too concerned about it.
Honestly, y'all, if you're watching the VOD, we only need 7 more followers to get affiliate. So like, if y'all could click the follow button, it's free, it's painless. If you really don't care about Twitch that much, just turn off notifications. But please stop by if you can. That would be much more appreciated. 3 more! 3 more, we could get affiliate.
Wait, what?
So, spread the word. We're at 43. You need 50, and you have the numbers in terms of like probably hours streamed and viewers. Because a lot of the time I see you sitting at least 4. So you're almost there.
I'm gonna be real. I don't even know what that does. I just know that it's one of the milestones.
You can monetize and you can get emotes.
Oh my god, emotes? Oh my god.
Yes. That's the only reason I want partners for emotes. Get me to partner so I can draw emotes and then you can leave. I really don't care about numbers. I just want more emotes.
Don't do that.
Don't do it. I'm not partner pushing.
Get me to partner. All right.
I just want to draw emotes.
All right, I'm gonna get out of here. If you want to know, when I go live, I play, 3D platformers. I play like PS2 games, PS1 games. I play older games, but I've also been playing like Spider-Man and stuff. The newer games. I'm gonna be playing Spider-Man 2 when that comes out. Yeah, that VODs over on the YouTube channel and stuff. Yeah, follow me on Twitch so you know when I go live. Twitter, YouTube community page, the Discord, go live announcements everywhere. I gotta get out of here for the restroom.
Yep.
Be good. Be kind.
Been fun.
Treat people the way you want to be treated. And we'll catch you next month. Last Sunday of the month is when we go live with these. The last Saturday of the month is when last month's VOD goes up. So if you're watching this live, next weekend, because unfortunately the last Saturday happens after the last Sunday here for September, but next Saturday the VOD will be going up for last month's, and then this one will be going up at the end of October. Yeah.
Yep.
We should probably find something...
I think we're back on the 29th.
Yeah, that sounds right. We should find something spooky to do for...
Oh, I'm gonna be off as well. Yeah, we could find something spooky to do if it's not reading that specific section that I mentioned in call. That's spooky.
Alright, yeah.
I'll think of something.
Gonna get out of here. Again, be good, be kind, genuinely. Treat people the way that you want to be treated. And we'll catch you later.